show. It's like, obviously the market opens at 9:30, right? So we're on at 8:30 and market closes at 4, we'll go to 4:30. Like you have the market open and closed, we're already on. We don't have to do anything on a specific time frame. And the market doesn't have to do anything on a specific time frame. 3 o'clock hits and it doesn't really matter. Look, a few things, actually Open and I were just talking about this Walgreens. Imagine you were in Walgreens Boots Alliance when that news came out that they might go private. Yeah, but why would you be in this stock is the question. That was my retort. Yeah. Like, imagine you happen to be in this when it goes up. Like, why would anyone? I don't know. Like, imagine you were in it here hoping for the same thing.
Oh, boy.
Or in it here hoping for the same thing. Speaking of, we're going to talk, at some point, we're going to talk about AMD. And when we mention the chips, we have some thoughts on AMD and the downward channel that it's going to be. And I'm only in one position. I'm still in Intel. And okay, fine. Sebastian is saying you should be, okay, I have to, before I get into some things, I'm only in one position. Sebastian, you're in it for the 14% dividend. And it only gets better and better as it drops. You look at that chart on Walgreens, you can dividend chase, but sort of the problem with dividend chasing is when you have the capital destruction like this, I get it. You just have to have some reason why you like sitting in it and eventually at some kind of a level. So it doesn't always work. But it's going to be a wild afternoon where we're basically riding the lows. Nvidia's down 2% here. to steal a quote from Sharif, I weaseled a couple of longs in Nvidia, but really it's been short. Sometimes you get away with a few. You know what it is? It's like, yeah, you get away with them and you catch a bit of a bounce, but the stock has been a short. That's been Nvidia. AMD down 2 points. The semis are basically taking on the chin. Tesla's been a rocket ship. Alphabet is a rocket as well. They're both, Tesla's 4.5 points. Google's 5% to the upside. So strong day for both those names. But the market riding on the bottom in the NASDAQ. We're down ever so slightly here. And just trying to hold on to yesterday bottom, morning lows, trying to catch a little bit of a bid. And the market's doing what it can. Just not the strength that we've been seeing recently. Usually we're bouncing off the lows by now. We'll be in, you can't close off the lows every day. Even in a bull market. Sometimes you actually get some follow through to the downside. We'll see, because Tesla's only a couple bucks away from an all-time high break.
Yeah, no, Tesla's definitely one to watch. That consolidation on top of that VWAP on Tesla was absolutely beautiful. Missed that one by a little bit, and yeah, that 410 seems like it might be imminent on Tesla here. I'm short a little bit of the goggles here underneath this 185, just on a break of a bit of a trend. But again, this is not really anything too crazy. I'm still looking for, I guess, a bigger failure to follow through. If it's gonna bid back up to the highs, that's perfectly fine. We can reassess. But some of these other names, man, they've been going pretty crazy. Here, we can take a look at AI. AI pretty much hit a high of 45. A nice little consolidation at that 45 during the midday session there. And you can see that we still technically make a lower high relative to what we did off of earnings reaction, off of pre-market. But something nice that we kind of pointed out in the pre-market and off the open today was that how nicely AI held its anchored VWAP in the pre-market, and then it comes in to test it around midday, and you can see it starts to reclaim. It holds above its VWAP as well, stair-stepping above some of these opening highs and opening structures, higher lows, higher highs. Finally takes a bit of a breakout of this kind of initial push and wash, and then kind of runs off into 45. So a nice little run here on AI, and maybe some strong reasons to buy off of the open as well. A little bit of confluence with some, again, that's prior earnings anchored, I think. Right, so it's bouncing off of that prior earnings anchored as well, right off of the open, and another I think technically SSR, right? It went SSR off of the open.
Yeah, it barely did.
Yeah, so it definitely a nice little run up on the day today. But yeah, no, another one I'm watching is MDB, MongoDB, another earnings name that didn't really quite make it. No real reversion here. We got a strong sell-off of the pop that we got off of earnings, and continues to sell off on the day, doing over 6 times relative volume. But yeah. That's really what I have on watch. I'll be watching Tesla and Google going into the end of the day.
It's a Tesla all-time high watch party.
Yeah.
Although,
Definitely.
so Brendan, who is right here,
Yes.
turned to me and said, did they just say on the midday, Tesla all-time high by Christmas? Before Christmas.
More like
So
like by the close.
So Sharif, look, let's just pull up Tesla right now. Sharif is confirming that his comment was Tesla all-time high on a closing basis, $409.97.
Okay.
Before Christmas, which last I checked was 2 weeks away. That's not very far. Tesla is at 400 and let's just zoom it in here.
High a day was
407.30, and the high is 409.19. So allow me to retort. What? Yeah, but
He has 416.
oh, you're saying 460. Okay, so he's talking about not on a closing basis, on a wick basis, which is like 416 something. Fair enough.
That's weird. I have 440.
Okay, I mean, on a closing basis, Tesla's high probably tested today. I don't necessarily disagree that you'll see that technical all-time high, whatever the top wick is. Today is what, Tuesday? Yeah, it's swimming today.
I think Elon should put a sell wall
Thursday.
at 420.69.
Obvious.
That would that's definitely something that Elon would do. And you know how we had the Bezos wall?
Sure.
Yeah, it's just straight SOPs. Come on.
Yeah, the standard.
So if Elon, if you're watching,
or he could not sell. That's just even better.
yeah.
If you own shares and you want it to go higher, I don't actually want Elon selling anything. Let's be real.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. Bezos sold along the way at 200, at 210s. Where's Amazon right now?
Relieve that pressure. Sometimes you got to relieve the pressure for it to go higher. True words have not been
create some
spoken.
buying pressure as well.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the symbols you guys want us to talk about. I guarantee it. I feel like Tesla's going to be number one anyway. So what does it matter?
All right, welcome everyone to the Afternoon Rundown, the show where you decide what we talk about every afternoon. We have a different poll set up during the How to Trade show, so make sure to get into the chat. We've got one poll per hour. The first and the second and the third each on the hour there. The first and the third are going to be for the Afternoon Rundown. The second is for the SPY. If you join us, you know exactly what we're talking about there. Let's have a look at the major averages to start. The NQ and the ES, both, just barely flat. One's down 0.19, the other one down 0.13. So we'll keep an eye on that. The Dow also marginally red, 0.06%, with the Russell 2000, the only one of the major averages up on the day, up 0.1%. Let's look, though, at the first ticker as decided by you. No surprise here. The boys were just talking about it. TSLA really looking to break out into those highs, another 4.5% in Greensville today. A couple headlines for this one. Looks like they're resuming their search for showroom space out in the Indian capital of New Delhi. We know Tesla has been wanting to get into the Indian market. Modi's made it very clear, you want to be in India, you got to do business in India and build in India, so we'll have to see what happens there. Morgan Stanley as well chiming in on Tesla today, maintaining their overweight rating but boosting the price target, Randy, to $400.
So Tesla. All right. So we just literally talked about the all-time high and close basis, all that good stuff. I feel like there was a big missed opportunity on Tesla. Let me go to a 15-minute. You're going to see it better on a 15-minute chart. Let me load it up for you. This morning, there was a break off 405 that stunk, and then the second break was good, and then it kind of gave up the 405, and that's all the trading I had. I did have a short in there. I had an accidental short that I had to cover, but I did have one short in here at 400. But when you look at this, back through 400 at 11 o'clock, and then holding 400, consolidation higher, like those are pretty good opportunities. Whether you're at the desk, locked and loaded, ready to take them. Tesla is now at the high. I feel like the play is we got 05 and we have 410 break this afternoon. And, I tend to agree with Elon, always right about that observation, and we kind of joke. Of course, I don't necessarily. Elon makes a great point here. Obi is absolutely right. My brother Musk sold shares in late 2021, 2022 when Tesla stocks are at an all-time high. Sometimes you get that nice pressure valve release, and you get that push to the upside. So it wouldn't be crazy to see that. Just know that if he does do that, then you can expect a pullback. Bezos called a bit of a pullback, which was actually a buying opportunity in Amazon. So if we do see something like that, where you get a brick wall at the all-time high, and it just consolidate into a lot of strength and a lot of buying, then we can have that kind of a trade where it pulls back and maybe gives us something technical. For this afternoon, 405, 410 breaks on Tesla. This morning, someone was asking about why didn't Rivian go with Meta. We're gonna have Randy come on a little bit later in the afternoon here to talk about some of the other EV plays and specifically about the tariffs as well. So I think that's a great question for him. And I need money. Before I go to Obi, just said, what's up with Meta? Why did Meta just move? When I see, that's the thing. Like, I see someone put in a name. No, it didn't. It's not really moving. So I suppose you mean, why is it doing nothing? Good question. But if it's not moving, you don't have to trade it. Market's at the lows, is diddling in the middle. It's already made its move. Yeah, I don't know that there's anything wrong specifically. I need money with Meta. You're just consolidating off of a high break. It's holding the highs. I mean, you could break down and get to the 50 period. You could break out. But if you're not watching Tesla this afternoon, one more point before I knew I forgot about something. Don't forget what's happened at the end of the day on Tesla the last couple of days. And I'm going to zoom out. At about 3 o'clock, this happened on Tesla. At 3:30, this happened at Tesla. I'm not saying Tesla's going to run in the last hour or in the last half an hour, but if it happens to, joining the rally is probably a good idea this time. I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to happen a third time in a row, but yeah, we were talking about this. Like, let's see how in demand that buying really is. That they want to pick some stuff up at the close there. But yeah, no, Tesla, nice little consolidation going into the later half of the day here. Again, I wasn't really here at my desk when it did this kind of 400 false break consolidation above VWAP, but looks good in retrospect there as it holds above VWAP for multiple tests and then kind of breaks this trend. 405s, we saw that prior day's highs were in and around, what is that, 404.80s right here, so 404.80s. So we did break above that, watch that level a little bit there. Now we're consolidating pretty tightly near these highs, 4919s, bit of a triple top, but you can also see a build of higher lows kind of pushing up into that level. Extension off of VWAP, yeah, about roughly about 4 to 5 points right here. 402.81 is VWAP. We're trading at 407.30s right now. Market to the downside though, Tesla still holding above its morning highs. So
quickly before we go back to talk about Nvidia,
wow.
There was just a sizable volume event on Intel. Like, Intel put in this candle and bounced off $20. So it just bounced off 20. This is sort of an obvious, that looks like a bottoming tail candle to me. So a stop, which would have been at VWAP, is now going to go in at 20 and a quarter, or maybe even just above the 20s. That looks like a bottoming tail candle at the $20 level for Intel. We shorted this instead of AMD, but we're about to talk about the chips anyway, so let's talk some Nvidia.
It's been a tough day for most of these chips today, Neil. And Nvidia, no question, 2% in the negative. It's been a tough week for Nvidia. There's no specific headline today to account for the sell-off. In fact, there was this little tidbit from Taiwan Semi, obviously the biggest manufacturer of advanced chips, and Nvidia is a big client of theirs. Their revenue boosted up 34% for the month of November, led by AI and smartphone demand. So we'll keep an eye on that, guys. But Nvidia breaking down below 136, down 2%.
Obi should be short Nvidia. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Look, man, I didn't have an intention to short Nvidia today. I had an intention to short AMD and then Intel later, but yeah, you had it. What's that? What is that line?
Okay, so I think I had looked at it from. It's a level from here, a little earlier. But like, I don't know. Maybe it's just random. Maybe I'm just lucky. It just happened to be a level that I liked as a level of significance, and on a rebound, we happened to test it. and failed by 2 pennies. But it is what it is. I don't think it really means much. But I think that if I was watching it with a little bit of that confluence, maybe using some of these anchors as well, see that we're trading below it, see that we false broke this kind of strong sell candle that we had yesterday with strong RVOL here as well, kind of rejecting this shelf as well, where we kind of saw that this acted as support, and now that support has turned into resistance. That was a support level here as well, roughly, going up into it. So yeah, a bit of a support and resistance play on Nvidia, and it just happens to be just that turn, and we get a strong flush. Again, I don't know if it's going to trade back through the open, but it did aggressively. And again, chips are very, very down on the day. If you take a look at SMH here, yeah, trading pretty much at day lows. Day lows at 239.60s. We're trading at 239.80s right now. So a strong extension from VWAP. We didn't really get any sort of bounce on any of these chips. So yeah. Going into the end of the day, I'm curious to know whether or not we close anywhere in the bottom quartile of the day, and if that's the case, are we looking for more continuation going forward in the week? But should be interesting. Let's see what some of these chips do. But Nvidia has been pretty nasty to the downside. What is that? That third red day in a row now. Yeah,
3 in a row for Nvidia, and I mean technically, I can't really do it any better than that, so I'm not going to try. I tried three mean reversion trades on Nvidia. 2 of them worked, 1 of them didn't. But at least you wait for your spots, like you wait for a bottom 137.5. Then we waited. I waited for some trend breaks on Nvidia. You just feel as if you're pulling back. You've now lost the 50-period moving average. 130 seems like a level that we're destined to hit. But as we're going to talk about the chips, look, AMD, we can all see the channel down. It tried to hold the channel and break the channel. It lost it. We said this morning or yesterday maybe, and then again this morning, it seems like we're headed to a bottom test of this channel in the August lows on AMD. So until we get there, I'm looking shorts. And then I'm going to get very, very quickly, just to double down, that bottoming tail candle, it's a rejection of prices underneath 2015. That's what I meant by that. That's why I tightened my stop. On big volume, I see that as a bit of a reversal, even though this has been a trend down on Intel, but that's a rejection under here, and then you hold these levels. Usually that's a reversal type candle. Well, you know what? If you want to trade those types of reversals, or any kind of a trading pattern, Trade the Pool allows stock traders like you to get evaluated and trade real shares using the company's capital with no PDT rule holding you back. Trade the Pool has just launched a limited edition program. For a one-time fee of just $300, you'll receive $80,000 in buying power and the chance to become a funded trader. Hit a profit target of just 4% and you'll start trading with the company's capital. Get funded faster and easier with the new conditions designed for success. And the best part, the profit split's been upgraded to a generous 70%, so you keep more of what you earn. Don't wait. Check it out now and see how Trade the Pool can help you trade bigger and better. Scan the QR code you see in front of you, click the link in the description, and take your trading to another level. And shout out to the winners of that recent contest. Let's talk about the other super strong name in addition to Tesla. It's Alphabet.
Big day today for Alphabet, Neil. 5 1/4 as we speak, and it looks like it might be still going over here. Here's the headline. Google's Willow quantum computing chip sparks a stellar conversation between Elon Musk and Sundar Pichai on X. Looks like they're discussing possibly putting these into space using the Starship. So just to give you some context here, what took this Willow computer 5 minutes, a mathematical calculation, 5 minutes to crack, apparently would take 10 to the power of 25 for the current the strongest supercomputer to be able to kind of solve the same problem there. Now, if you were thinking that this could have applications for unlocking Bitcoin, experts are already coming out and saying Google's quantum Willow chip is light years from cracking Bitcoin. Just to put a face, guys, this is what the chip looks like itself, but it goes into this big thing. That's kind of the whole quantum computing setup there. That's what we're looking at.
That ain't no thing, man. I'll tell you right now. You ever seen the picture unlock on a phone where it's like you have an image and then you have like a grid of numbers,
yep,
right? And then you have to drag a random number on the grid to a specific spot in the picture. It's pretty much almost impossible to crack. Like even if you watch a person do it, you can't know what number where and to what part of the picture. So I had my old phone, that was my unlock. And I was explaining to my daughter, who's 7 years at the time, yeah, she's 7 at the time, it was almost a year ago, explaining to her how it worked. And she's like, oh, can I try it? I'm like, just don't do it 10 times around. I want my phone to lock. So I give her the phone, and she unlocked it the first time. Straight up. Complete, utter fluke. And then the look she gave me, she goes, and then she didn't even want to play with the phone. She's like, that was easy, Daddy. And I was she didn't understand why I was dumbfounded. I'm like, were you kidding me? Like, she didn't even watch me do it. Complete and utter fluke. That said, I am actually impressed by, I think quantum computing, a lot of people would agree is going to be the next wave. Alphabet, I think, like Tesla, is headed to its top, which on the daily is just over $190. I think that's where we're going to be headed. You had a local breakout today. That prior high was 182, so where were we looking at the open? 182 dip, VWAP dips, then VWAP stopped holding. The only mistake today, I think, was getting away from this back at the 182 and then at VWAP. Probably more so the 182. VWAP was kind of dirty and not that clean. And the mistake was there's the bottoming tail candle. Again, exactly what we explained on Intel. And then the same level holds. And was the same level we liked in the morning to buy off of. So I kind of know, I got up and was preparing for the middle, the lesson of the day kind of thing. And you miss those opportunities. Sometimes in the middle of the day, you take a break, you get up, you go for a walk, you're not at your desk. And then maybe the best reloading opportunities are going to happen to you. That's the same moment Tesla held 400 is when you got that retest of 182 on Alphabet. I think now we got to start thinking, is it going to break a 186 high of the day? And I'll probably play continuation on this until we get to 191 or it breaks trend for the next couple of days.
Yeah, that action was pretty choppy there. But the morning session again, it took a bit of that opening drive push on that Google. We make tops around 186 as some aggressive buying comes in, but those tops become a little bit sloppy there and the bid starts to fall off. We make a lower high 185s, and then we get crushed all the way back through the opening prices, through the opening range lows. Nice little hold of this 181.05 on a strong wick down. I stopped looking at it. I'm like, all right, well, if maybe that's a strong reason to buy. It gives you that double bottom there, roughly in and around 181 halves, 182, whatever you want to call it. A bit of a confluence with some of these pre-market levels as well, and that strong wick really kind of showing us that maybe we don't want to break. Like if we get rid of all these lines in VWAP, you can see just off of the candle there that the opening range low was in and around 181.50s. We traded well below that, but that aggressive buying comes right back in and takes it, and then we hold a higher low, and then we kind of do a bit of a break in trend of that as well to hold for a revisit of that VWAP. Claiming VWAP, we're pushing higher even right now. So yeah, I was in a bit of a short position, just kind of dabbling underneath this 185, just got stopped out as we trade back above into the 90s there, into 185, because I think 185 definitely a little bit of a level to watch, but prior highs sitting here at 185 halves, and then day high sitting at 186.30s. Here on Google, an aggressive hold of that bid at 181s. And again, we saw some of that buying pressure come in right off of the open as well. Quantum computing, then. The chips. They're nice.
From quantum computing to AI, C3 AI reported after the bell yesterday, was well received. It was up big after earnings report, but it sold off quite aggressively in the pre-market today, trying to recover though, guys, up 6%, but still, guys, well off those after earnings highs from yesterday in the aftermarket.
Wrong reason to buy.
Textbook. Oh, the position board went. Textbook SSR bounce on C3 AI. Now, when I sat down this morning and it did the reverse, I was thinking the under 40 short, like short to the 40 level, which really the only time that set up was in the pre-market. In here, in Y40, okay, there. So you gap up, you trap some longs, you're holding underneath support from the aftermarket, and then you're dumping into flat, and then you're dumping. Like by the time you get to the open, you're like, okay, well, this is pretty bearish under prior support at the 40 level. But your only chance to trade that is pre-market here, and then one shot off the open when it curls underneath 40. After this, It's making higher lows and SSR bouncing, short sell restricted down over 10% at that moment, I think. Or was it? Maybe it did. I thought it did get there. Pretty sure. Close at 41.68. And that's underneath 36. So absolutely it did. So it was a short sell restricted bounce. It's making higher lows, which meant it's not valid, at least in my opinion, it's not valid to try shorting it off this level the next time it gets there. Because at that point, it's wipeout, bottom, rejection, SSR bounce, higher low, don't touch it. And then, as we said in the lesson of the day, suddenly that level turns into a support for a long. And then you get your continuation.
So it's going.
This is, Tesla's going to go. This is, by the way, if this gets to 50 in the next couple of days, obviously we talked about this in the aftermarket show as a potential level. Tesla's up at the top right now. 409.97 is all-time high on a closing basis. 409.74, it just tagged. Tesla wants 410. I think it's going to happen. But C3AI, the fact it made this recovery, you trapped some longs in the aftermarket, but it's more significant to trap shorts during the market. And if new shorts entered today on C3AI, that 50 break and squeeze could be very, very spicy. I don't think that's happening today. We can look for that a little bit later after it settles down. Tesla on watch, though.
Yeah, I think that Tesla 410 is definitely one to watch. That's ramping up into that right now. That could very well happen any moment right now. We've printed about a quarter below that 410. But yeah, C3AI, we talk about that pressure coming in the morning, and yeah, Neil's definitely right. If anybody and everybody who was short in the pre-market here, great, I guess a great kind of short that came in. Gave you a strong flush as that volume starts to come in. Flushes all the way down from 45s to a low of day off of the open at 35.62. But aggressive buying, nice hold, break of trend, reversion, holding VWAP, making higher highs and higher lows, reclaiming the anchored that it was showing as a bit of resistance, and then pushing all the way back up to 45. So pre-market highs currently sitting at 46.34. We're trading at 44.61s with an intraday high of 45.07. So the earnings reaction high was all the way right underneath that $50 mark at 49.57. So let's see if this buying pressure can take us up there. But a strong V-shape move off of what we did in the pre-market session happening right now. And again, with only about an hour and a half left in the trading day, if we break through this 45, oh boy, I got to be watching this ticker to see if some of these pre-market highs and prior day earnings reaction highs come into play on AI. But yeah, 409.40s right now on Tesla. But before that, let's go talk about some Bitcoin.
Yeah, Bitcoin over the last one on the rundown here. There's a chart of IBIT down 0.16, essentially flat at the moment. In case you're just joining us, Microsoft did have their shareholders meeting today. On the docket was whether or not they would hold Bitcoin, specifically 1% of their non-equity holdings. The shareholders decided not to go with that, though it was voted down. So BTC not going to be held by Meg 7 name quite yet. And here is the chart, guys, the daily chart on BTC. What I see there is higher lows on that bull flag setup. What do you guys see?
You just see now. There's nothing to say. Yeah, there's higher lows on daily chart, but let's look at a different time. Let's look at a different time frame, Sharif, because now that you've already said that. So this is a 1 minute on BTC. I was actually going to pull it to like a 5, so you can see the nice little bottom that we ended up making here. And it's, if you go back, let me get rid of this. Oh, my head's in the way. Here, can I? There we go. Oh yeah, thank you, Fabian. So if you look back, we've already had one test down into 94, and then you're getting a bounce right back into 96, which is turning into a little bit of resistance. As far as the trade goes, like you're getting a chop zone where now 98 was resistance, and maybe now it's down to 96.5, and you're testing back maybe towards 90, 92, who knows? But right now you're bouncing 94. You've got this little bit of a reversion off 100 that's taking place, which, look, how are you going to express it? You can trade IBIT if you want to. I think it's reasonable if we were to retest 90, even 88, and that wouldn't be bad. But just look at the miners. Like Mara, and we left you in the morning show, Mara, flat bottom break underneath this 23.75. You can see on the daily chart it's been strong, but it lost this support at 23.75, traded down to this level, which is about 22.5 or just above it. So sometimes the best place to express a trade cleanly it might be another chart. Like when you see general weakness in Bitcoin, there might be a better chart somewhere giving you a trade. Like this was that level getting, how was that line moving on its own? What did I just do? That's an interesting feature. See what I'm doing there? I've never seen that before. Anyways, when we lost that support, it consolidated right underneath that level, prior market lows, and then your 75 was the midpoint, and then it just dropped like a rock. And that was in general weakness in the Bitcoin, dropping to 94.5. So if we do come back to VWAP, I might look for a retracement trade. Right now you have a lower high here at 23.25, but we've seen a bounce in Bitcoin. I want to see the trend go back down, show some weakness. We shorted this at the close yesterday for a win, and it was similar. It was just pulling back into a prior resistance spot, which it's doing again, 23.25 here on Mar. That's the vehicle I'll be looking at. Oh, you're already in the reversion trade on Alphabet.
I mean, I've been trying a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Bitcoin.
I see it.
I mean, it's a clean test of 185. We'll see if it works. I'm just taking like small stabs at it. Nothing too crazy just yet. I'm looking for something a lot more, I guess, distinctly different to get in a lot more. But if it doesn't present itself with that, that's perfectly fine as well. Whatever. We'll move on to the next trade. Bitcoin though. Bitcoin, nice little pullback here that we've had. Again, during midday session, we dropped all the way down to 94.2s, 273s here on the Ponzi there. We talk about the trend that it's been holding. Let's get rid of this VWAP here. Absolutely. No need for that one. So we'll go to a 3 hour so we can see the trend a little bit better here. So yeah, we're kind of starting to wash a bit of this trend. We got a little bit weak here a few days ago on top of this trend. Now again, it's just a line on the chart, kind of just signifies where people may or may not be sitting, looking at, risking off of, etc. And we had that strong wick. We've come back into it. Now we're trading a little bit below it there. So immediately start looking at some of these horizontal levels here. So 92 clean was where we got that. It was not that clean, but like 92.055.86 I have here as the low from Coinbase. That was that wick low that happened again last Thursday going into the close. Aggressive selling and got pretty much picked back up. But we were talking about how MSTR we might want to look for that break to that low. Right. Did that happen? That didn't really happen. That actually holds that low pretty well right here. So you can see that prior low. Oh boy, look at that. That low right there is 356.03. Today's day low is 356.13. Don't forget, this is a $350 ticker. Right, so finding a place where you can risk 10 pennies, oh boy, might be something.
Plus
but
slippage.
Let's slip. Yeah, definitely some slip involved. But when you're dealing with monsters, sometimes it can be a slippery slope. Again, you can look at it as a reversion as well. But it seems like it did bounce off of that prior low, is what I'm seeing here on MSTR. What's going on in there?
Sega.
We have an Apple story here because there's been so much of this breaking news today. Due to Bloomberg commentary suggesting that Apple's readying a blood pressure tool for its Apple Watch, and it might be ready by 2025. Then we also had reports here, so keep an eye on Dexcom, because Bloomberg further reported that Apple is also working on a non-invasive way to monitor glucose levels. We know Dexcom is mostly focused on diabetes, so keep an eye here on DXCM. Also, that blood pressure tool could impact GSAT and, of course, AAPL. Back to you guys.
There's something going on to Sega here, which the irony is not lost with me on that one, because like they deal with like respiratory stuff, right? Their vaccine. Yeah, like I said, with my cough. Not lost on me, but the huge volume candle. This dropped from $7 to $6.25.
Oh boy.
It's coming right back up. I still haven't seen it. I haven't seen it come across the wire. I was listening to Adara when it was hearing it in my ear. Sega going down on volume. Now it's already bouncing. It's coming right back into 7, so that might be okay. Tesla not breaking out. This is actually pulling back off the 410 level. Yeah, I'm just going to keep tracking Sega. We'll see what happens there. The fact that it's already back, wow, that really rinsed some people. Right back up to the top. Okay, so Tesla does not break 410. All-time high on a closing basis, 497. And it's already pulling back 405, 406 area. has been a good area for a dip buy. Let's see if it gets down there and can set us up for some kind of a dip. And then I had mentioned I wanted to join Mara if I could back at 23.25. The other thing that I'm watching, stock, that I would like to get into already in Intel, but like this at some point should just always be short AMD as well. AMD, I don't even know if you can get to VWAP at this point. You're consolidating off the lows. I don't know if I want to lower the day break, but I think the next available pop, I'm going to look for a short as well in AMD. I've seen a few people mentioning Boeing. Tesla and Alphabet aren't the only strong stocks. Boeing's actually up more today. Boeing's up 6 points, resuming 7037 MAX production, breaking out on the daily. We'd mentioned needs to close above 165. It's doing that. It bounced off this 163 area earlier. We're headed to the 200 period moving average on Boeing. So a great long opportunity if you got this one. Literally taking out the highs as we speak. Look at that. It's just on the 15-minute, there's one tiny red candle, and it bounced right off 162.5. So right in that 163 zone, almost perfectly. Hey, if you were trading that one, you'd be laughing there. Luis Martinez, you guys rip AMD. Have you seen Nvidia? Okay, so I understand. Nvidia is Nvidia is down 2.5 points. It is trend down today. When we're ripping AMD, I think we're more talking about, whoops, I've zoomed the wrong direction. I think we're more talking about, generally speaking, like this is Nvidia. It's close to some fresh highs, pulling back 10%. And then AMD's chart is much weaker. And if you look at AMD, 2023, beginning of 2023 is when the AI craze started, right? So AMD was like $80. But if you look at the beginning of this year, when it's like, hey, let's go AI part 2, look at all the volume here at the beginning of the year on AMD, piling into AMD, and where is the support? 150. So it's above the 150 level, dipping into 150, that all this buying at the beginning of the year happened. Then it makes a top, and it's been lower highs ever since. So losing 150, look, and we were looking at these the biggest volume candles. This stay here, test and fail of 150. Look at all the volume spikes since then outside of it. I mean, this top was a trend top, and then this other volume spike in here was another fail of the 150 level. So I think you're headed down to the bottom of the channel here on AMD, and that's the reason why we speak about it, just the higher time frame. It's the higher time frame on AMD, and it's nothing. Look, I get it. Today, Nvidia is absolutely the weaker of the two stocks. It's down 2.7% or 2.5% to 2, and it's just as bad. But I am looking for continuation shorts wherever I can find them. I'm only in Intel, and even that bottoming tail candle that I was talking about, it tried to reverse. I was thinking tighten up my stop because of it. I could have just reloaded. So maybe it's just this. I need to reload this one at like 2020. If I can even get it at this point, because I think the shorts are on. Obviously, Google's got to be working.
Yeah, Google's working for now, but we're holding those 84 halves here, Neil. So I'm kind of just watching it, looking for that next trade. We're still trading 247 50s on Apple. So surprisingly enough, it hasn't really pushed anywhere near. Oh boy, what is that? Oh, Nvidia. Oh, Nvidia's puking down to 135s. All right. Like I just look at a chart. I'm like going through some of these charts. I'm like, oh, what is that? That's Nvidia puking to the downside a little bit there. So congrats to anybody who was short chips today. It seems like the NASDAQ, again, nice little reversion of that strong push up into 21.6s. Fails to follow through, breaks that trend down here, maybe 50, 60 points away, and then gets crushed to the downside for another, what is this, about almost a 100-point flush there on the DAC. As we print some fresh lows. Let's see if the ES is going to follow in suit. But yeah, no, I'm kind of looking at some of these trades from earlier here, and just kind of thinking about what were some of the best opportunities off of the open, or maybe even during the midday. And I think that Neil definitely has the right idea, getting short on Intel on these lower highs as it continues to sell off with the rest of these chips. Now AMD did something similar as well, below VWAP right here. Cracks through 130, can't really get above 130 plus VWAP. Confluence, prior day low confluence. Oh boy. And then it comes in. Look at that strong quadrunk with expanding volume all the way to the day lows right here. 127.94 has come in off of that VWAP rejection, day low breakdown as well. And now we're kind of consolidating above this 128 level here on AMD. But no, Nvidia, oh boy, that is some selling to the downside. We've retraced quite a bit. Funny enough, Neil, this is some strong selling coming on off of this level here. I'm not a technical analyst, but seems like that technical level definitely was a little bit important there.
A little bit.
Yeah. I got to trust myself when I don't have too many lines on a chart, and I point out just a few of them and be like, all right, well, if it alerts me to a certain level, then maybe watch some of that price action there. Same thing happened with me on that Intel. Now, I can't really show that alert live on air, but I did have a pretty aggressive alert.
Well, you could just retype it to not have a cuss word in it.
Yeah, let me, you know what, maybe do it.
I mean, that's an option.
Yeah,
too.
But I was just trying to emphasize how important it was for me to get into this position.
Whatever works for you.
You know what I mean? I'm just like, well, 2065s, I'm just like, yeah, okay, so this, I can just say it. I'm just like, I'm not going to say the whole thing, but here I'm just like, 2065 is the alert, and the alert basically says, are you short with size? If not, get in. There may be an expletive somewhere in there. And a risk to opening range highs, which is about 20 pennies away. So yeah, you might have gone to 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 or whatever you want to call it, but regardless, I was just like, high probability we trade through this, and you trade through this, I want to risk opening range high, risking about 4 risk units on the day. Again, that's what that alert kind of says. And again, if you want to look back at the chart and look at what is significant about 2065, you can go do that. It's just a breakdown. It's just a trend trade where it's just like it's been downtrending. Chips are weak today, so that definitely helps. Nvidia is weak today. That definitely helps. Intel and AMD both have been on a bit of a trajectory to the downside. That definitely helps on a bigger picture. So interestingly enough, that trade seems to have worked out pretty well. And again,
you can say that.
Sure, if you're risking up to opening range high, that's about 20 points. But again, if you can get a little finesse and be like, all right, I'm just risking this bar high, or I'm risking VWAP, you're risking less than 3 to 5 pennies here on that push. So it's like, what I'm starting to realize is if I can find places where I want to make a decision that may be of high conviction based off of the price action that's been leading into that level, maybe I should have orders in the market to kind of get me into a little bit and then take more after taking a look at it. I don't know how I really want to.
I mean, as long as
that, but
you just got to be dripping in finesse, and then you'll be good.
Yeah, straight dripping, drip drop.
You didn't get that one? Bruno Mars. It's an older song, but it's, you know what? For the references that I make, that's actually pretty new. So as far as I'm concerned, like, you should have got that.
Is that like a Versace on the floor era? Or?
Literally, man, I don't know what albums are named. Just before we go to the Randy Roundup, which is good timing because Tesla just hit 4.2%, 420. Obviously should have shorted 410 because it is retesting this support down at 405, 406 as we speak. Perfect timing. If we get one of these bottoming tail candles, I'm going to look for a long off the 405 here with Tesla. But Randy promised when you asked the last couple of days for an auto segment with Randy. We're ready at the desk. Go get them.
Actually coming off here pretty hard right now, but still up, better part of 4%. Just made a new day high above 408 and then falls $3 in a matter of 5 minutes. Yeah, we're going to touch on a few things here. Specifically, there's been a lot of questions and a lot of people wondering about these tariffs and Trump talking a lot about tariffs that he's going to impose, not only on Canada, but China as well. Specifically for Canada, we'll focus on. There's a lot of activity that happens cross-border almost on a daily basis, specifically in the auto industry. So from a parts standpoint to an assembly standpoint to, let's be honest, a raw material standpoint, back and forth on both sides. I mean, there hasn't been much in the way of detail as to what this is going to affect, on a granular basis, but we do have a bit of an overview as far as what it could affect.
I don't know if I would even go as far as calling it an overview. I think he's building leverage here. I think he's the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. There's going to be other revisions to the existing USMCA. The Made in America is a thing, but there's an incredible amount of implications here. And his ability to undermine, which is actually Canada's strongest GDP contributor, is the auto sector. So there's a lot involved, and I've done a ton of reading in the last week and a half, 10 days, on people in the industry, people who are working for auto manufacturers, parts suppliers, the supply chain itself. There's a lot of implications here that could really affect, a lot of the labor market. And we're not talking just Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. And a lot of people I had conversations with, they think it's just the big three. It's absolutely not. There's so much more involved here when you look at the likes, especially in Mexico. You've got Honda and Toyota, Kia, Can-Am, Stellantis, BMW, Mercedes-Benz. They all build in Mexico. Mm-hmm. So if you start slapping tariffs on products coming out of Mexico, and these are just assembly companies. We're not talking about part suppliers, chip suppliers, raw materials, as you said. There's such a huge exposure here. When you look back at the auto industry and how complex it is, number one. Number two, how they've taken advantage of cheaper labor in Mexico, the cheaper dollar here in Canada, and how the benefits that appeal to manufacturing in those given locations, they've really made it work. And with the help of labor unions, with the help of state, provincial, federal governments, with loans and grants to help not only the sector here, but the labor markets as well, and raw materials. The entire picture is a big, big web, and there's a lot at stake. And I think a lot of people are rightfully nervous. There's so much going on here. There's going to be a lot of discussions, I think, when the new administration takes power next year. But there's a lot of nervous folks out there. There's a lot of preparation underway because, which way does this lean? One of the biggest things that I wanted to break down was, as you mentioned, raw materials. We've got steel, magnesium, rubber, copper, all these materials that are not necessarily mined in the U.S. They come from other countries. You start slapping tariffs on those and the prices on everything goes up. We're not just talking autos. We're talking durable goods, white goods, washing machines and dryers and dishwashers and things. All these raw materials that they cannot produce under the USMCA would have to come from somewhere else. And they do today. And yes, there are some tariffs today, but to increase that is going to really, upset a trade war. Do American consumers want to pay more for everything?
Not at this point.
No.
Not at this point. I mean, you came up with like some really staggering numbers here. Why don't we just run through from the auto side of things, specifically the amount of people we're talking about here, because it's not nothing.
No, it's not nothing at all. Just in North America, estimated alone, there's about 4.5 million people working in the auto industry. This is assembly, this is the supply chain, the dealers, the aftermarket production companies. This does not include private repair shops, financing, rental services, fleet services. That's another giant piece of the pie. 4.5 million people. These are middle-wage jobs, Mexico, in the U.S. and in Canada. On top of that, you've got service companies, who are servicing, doing warranty and expiration, and leasing companies, and there's more. So yes, it's not at all an insignificant number.
When it comes to, let's try and be positive here. It's sounding a little bit doom and gloom. Is there a positive spin that we can put on this from the standpoint of job creation, opportunity, anything that could come from, the demand side, because this could theoretically increase demand? It
could. We've looked at the most recent PMI data. In November, we're up. The auto sector itself has been weak this year, and inflation's had to do with that. Labor markets, there's been strikes and so forth, and some labor unrest. Yes, there's a potential, absolutely. Of course, there's a positive way to spin this. There's going to be a lot of labor negotiations when these tariffs come to talk. There's going to be positive outcomes. It's the breadth, it's the bandwidth involved, and how those discussions go. Again, governments in Mexico, governments here, labor union leaders and so forth. There's a lot at stake. The positivity potential is there, but it could go both ways.
Yeah, how do we get to that point? I mean, the guys on the midday I heard were talking about this a little bit. At what time do we, or at what point do we get to that? I mean, the growth from Tesla specifically on the sales side has been so impressive.
Yes.
And you throw this type of, wrench into the fire. How long does it take before we get to that point where Elon goes on an earnings call and says, hey, guess what? Next quarter is not looking so great.
Right. And you almost have to look at Tesla as an outlier, not just because Elon's potentially part of Trump's new administration, or the likes of Rivian. U.S. made in America manufacturers, they're building pure EVs. I have more concern about the traditional manufacturers, and again, the big three and all the other ones I mentioned that are building in Mexico. That's time, and it's a lot of time. And is it enough time for this one administration, the 4-year term they have, to make these changes? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think the runway needs to be longer. When you talk about the breakdown in vehicles, it's not just the assembly and the actual vehicles themselves. And one of the posts that I saw on Reddit, one of the biggest components was electronics, was semiconductors.
Sure.
Now, cars are full of semiconductors these days. We have cameras and sensors and chips and ECUs and MCUs, and everything is electronic. Most of these chips are coming from offshore. They're coming from China, they're coming from Taiwan, they're coming from elsewhere. Yes, we have the Chips and Sciences Act that the Biden administration put in place in 2022, which was to help get the US semiconductor industry more resilient, to be able to bring jobs, to bring production back to the US. It's been a slow go. We know the new administration is not a fan of it. He would rather revoke all the grants and loans that the Biden administration is handing out and basically tariff these foreign companies, TSMC, Infineon, all these other companies, and XP stocks that we trade daily, force them via tariffs to start production on U.S. soil. There's two problems with that. Number one, these fabs cost tens of billions of dollars to produce. Ask Intel. Number two, they take years to build. So you can have that immediate investment and force companies to make the move, but the time frame becomes an issue. This is not a problem we can solve tomorrow or next year. So if you're an auto manufacturer or a parts manufacturer, the time is potentially not on your side.
I was just having a look here. It's December 10th, so we're a month and 10 days away from what could be the start of this. And as everyone was saying there, Tesla continuing. Randy's talking down Tesla at this point. It just fell.
No.
It just fell more than 1%.
Well,
Randy was going on his little rant there about what could come to this industry. From a long-term perspective, it's not the first time around.
Nope.
Is it going to be, more different, on top of what happened the last time? We just don't know. There's not a lot of detail. Right?
We don't know. And what you have to understand is this is the USMCA, but those other manufacturers, Audi, Volkswagen, these are Asian and European manufacturers that are building in Mexico. This is going to implicate or impact European. And so this becomes a global problem.
Yeah.
You start with steep tariffs. You're now impacting PMI in Europe and in Asia and elsewhere. And all these global car companies that are selling cars everywhere, they're also now in the fray. So I think the potential to keep this contained is there. The potential for it to get out of control is also there. This is a much, much bigger picture, I think, than the USMCA that we have now. I think the potential is definitely, there's a lot on the table. And a lot of impact, and it could become, a global impact.
We'll know more in, a month, maybe. Who knows?
I think it'll take longer than a month.
Yeah.
Detail-wise, there's going to be extensive talks with, again, labor unions and the governments that are involved from both the state and the federal level. There's a lot to go. Is this leverage? Absolutely.
So you're not buying Tesla 400 then?
I think there's going to be a pullback. Neil and I had this conversation the other day. I think the hype is on. The hype is on. Let's trade that hype. It's fantastic. And Sharif questioned me, was it 2 weeks ago, about the pullback on Tesla? Yeah, maybe I was wrong, but It ain't gonna last forever.
Sharif's a believer.
Sharif's a believer.
Forever and
So yeah, we got a ways to go yet, but it's gonna be maybe a rough ride. We'll see. Interesting times ahead.
Who knows? I mean, at this point, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
It's brand new territory. Randy, always great insight as always. Thank you.
Is there an algo listening to Randy?
Yeah.
In all seriousness,
As soon as
like I'm not making this up. Look,
came in.
before we pivoted to Randy, I'm like, okay, Tesla, the 410 pull back, and let's see if it can hold on to 405. It held on to 405 for a minute. I'm like, let's get in over 06 and give it to, and we're out. No, I was literally like, let's get long, throw it in the stop order, and we're out. Like, that's how fast it happened.
Gone.
And then Randy continued to, and look, we appreciate it. Obviously, Randy knows much more about the industry than I will accumulate in a lifetime. But yeah, so Tesla did pull back into 402 and is trying to get back above VWAP. It is not. You'll see me in Nvidia, well, mostly because AMD wouldn't give me the fill I wanted, and Intel wasn't doing anything. So I looked over, like, when that test up happened, okay, was Intel giving you anything? No, it wasn't moving. I'm just in it and holding. But we talk about support and resistance. Support turning into resistance. If trend is down, a prior support level turns into a resistance level. Volume picked up on the break. It pulled back into resistance. AMD wasn't available for a setup trade. Intel wasn't available for a setup trade. The other thing is, well, the other chip name that's headed downside, it's Nvidia now through 135. So when you're looking to short the pops, generally that's what I'm thinking about. What is that prior high on the name? Now, I think you're getting close to a capitulation, not a capitulation bottom, but the support in this close was right around this area, the 135. So this is kind of an important area for Nvidia. The other name that's been flying around here in addition to those two, what was it? It was Palantir I was going to point out.
Palantir.
It's at that $71 level. If Palantir loses 71,
Risk it for
it
this.
feels like a clean shot to 70, but this is exactly yesterday where the buying came and that took it to 73. So you can see here yesterday on Palantir. I did trade Palantir once for mean reversion, but that was kind of off the 71.5. No, 71 even on Palantir is another big level coming in. But for now, market is flushing. Don't blame Randy. He was just dropping knowledge. The good news, I think, for Tesla would be, hey, if all this selling has happened now, suddenly if that buying in the final hour or the final 30 minutes that we've seen the last couple of days, if it starts to come in, some pressures got relieved. So maybe that's exactly what you need to happen for this quote-unquote program buying that's happened the last 2 days in Tesla.
I mean, realistically, like if you're looking for a hold of VWAP, this is the play. Like it's holding that double bottom 402s right now, trading at 403.05. So what? If you're risking to that low, you're risking about a point to get to look for a push back up, reverting maybe a prior bar high break happening at 403 halves. But yeah, let's see if we do a bit of a bounce. This is the same area where we had that strong little consolidation where we went up and stepped up above opening range highs here off of this bid on top of 401s, and we come right into that area in and around where that buying comes in and takes us to the upside, and that's where we hold a bit of a strong volume flush. I was just like, oh boy, we're puking into VWAP there and that aggressive flush, and we're getting that pick back up, back through those prior bar highs. We're already trading about half a point higher here. Let's see if we come back, if we can reclaim a little bit of these 405s. And yeah, that Google, I was looking at this Google here. It was attempting to take a bit of a short here, continuation of what we saw in the morning session there. A bit of a missed trade on the reversion for me. But I'm like, all right, well, let's look for lower highs here. So I'm trying to get in 184.70s, 184.60s, get stopped out when we break highs and kind of false breaks. 185 prints beautifully to the zeros there, and then fails to follow through. I'm like, all right, well, I want to get right back into that idea because this is more confluence, maybe even higher EV there, or a pull down into VWAP, and we get a nice, we get a little lucky with the market breaking its lows and that puking all the way down into VWAP there. But a nice little false break happening here on Tesla as well. Very similar kind of action where you have a prior consolidation. This one gave you 3 tops at those 409s. Goggle gave you 2 tops at 184.60s, and then we had about a 15 penny-ish pop which fails, and then on Tesla, you have more of a 70, I'd say 60-50 penny pop that pops up and fails to follow through, giving us a puke back down into VWAP. So some great price action to kind of reflect on here. I wanted to get more on the goggle, and I guess this lower high might have been a good place to get in here as the markets break a little bit lower here. 71 crack there on Palantir, so I did try to take a quick cheeky little bounce here, but again, can't be trying to pick bottoms on a I wouldn't call it a falling knife, but it's definitely I don't mind that I took a shot there. I definitely wanted more if we could reclaim halves and push 72s for the push into VWAP, but again, it doesn't give you that chance. So
I have an analogy for you.
What's up?
It's more like standing in front of it's like a barrel rolling down a hill, or something rolling down a hill,
it's
and you
just
want to
like,
stand in front of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we get back to it, I got to address something in the chat, JR. I love everybody in our community, and I appreciate you. Thank you very much for contributing, JR. And I'm going to read this, and I have an issue. No, Autobots assemble and begin selling. Avengers assemble. What you mean to say is
roll out.
Autobots transform and roll out.
Yes.
That's what you mean to say. And the distinction is an important one because as a self-proclaimed nerd, I believe we need to get these things correct.
Yes.
So that's all I have to say about that. Nvidia continues lower. If you haven't been here for the last couple of weeks, I apologize in advance for my cough. The more I talk, the more I do. Apple on volume, high of days.
Oh, wow.
Testing highs.
Oh, 250.
So, yes, 250, incoming the 250 level, but look at the volume candles here on Apple. As the market presses low of the day on the NASDAQ, Apple just went green and continues to go higher. It's a rocket ship. It's a home run, although that triggers me because we didn't get Soto, who would have hit like 50 home runs in Toronto. But that's okay because the Blue Jays are going to pivot to whatever crappy veteran they can get. And as long as I own Apple shares, I should have a smile on my face. So Apple absolutely flying. I think 250 could easily happen for sure. Nvidia, it's at the level, it's starting to, yeah, I'm going to look for the slap of the trail on Nvidia. We're starting to get down into capitulation territory. Like the next level was this 134. So I'm going to start trailing this one. Nvidia now flushing. And AMD, I'm going to make the assumption. I'm going to throw it back to you in a second. I can hack. Nvidia breaking low of the day. This is why I'm in it instead of AMD. I know I said I was going to short AMD. AMD just chilling out and wasn't doing anything. Meanwhile, Nvidia, it's just weaker now. So earlier, I would posit that earlier Nvidia, there was a point where AMD was weaker. Just Nvidia is clearly the dog here as well. Oh, come on, Kyle. Thank you for the super chat, Kyle. This may come as a surprise, but I always rooted for the Decepticons. Soundwave was really cool. I love Soundwave was the ish. I love Soundwave. How are you gonna root for the Decepticons? Like I was a kid. When you grow up, you start liking some of the bad guys, like whatever, like depending on the show. Yeah. When you're a kid, you're not rooting for the Decepticons. It makes sense. They're literally trying to take over the earth. Like there's no redeeming qualities about the bad guys. This is not Dexter. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't. It's a very different thing there, Kyle.
Right.
Let's go to the desk as the market tanks. We'll handle some business with Adara.
This part of the show is brought to you by Worksport, introducing a new discovery on the NASDAQ, Worksport, ticker WKSP. Worksport is a U.S.-based manufacturer, and it's rapidly expanding, with growing revenues, government contracts, and innovative green energy products designed to power your life off-grid. Whether you're on the move or seeking sustainable energy solutions, Worksport has you covered. Now trading on the NASDAQ under WKSP. Discover the future of clean energy with Worksport. Back to you.
So again, we're kind of looking at that Tesla. Oh boy, that Tesla's coming in real hot. 400 incoming. So you know what? Randy bringing in some of this selling apparently. Let's take a quick look at that tape because I definitely want to see that tape coming into 400 TSLA. Let's got to be quick with that one right here. I'll pull it up for you guys as well on the main screen in front right here, so we can kind of pull this up. A little bit of a puke. Let me see. Do we do a little bit of capitulation? Do we get some aggressive flushing all the way? That prior high, where was that at? Prior low was at 398.02s. Oh boy, we're coming in 399 and change trading over here, Neil. So
134 on
hot and
Nvidia.
heavy.
The whole market's tanking.
Oh boy, this battery is losing its charge pretty quickly here.
Well, I see what you did there.
Maybe.
All right.
That was horrible.
We've hit
400
we've hit 134. I'm now trailing Nvidia. This was the target area. So this feels like a bit of a capitulation, and I usually expect some kind of a bounce when you get this kind of a move to the downside, like something along this or maybe along those lines. If we get back above 134, the thing is, I would take if I was flat and I liked the long, I'd take a mean reversion back through 134. So if we get back through, I'm probably going to I'm going to get out of the short. But Tesla, as you mentioned, trying to hold on to that 400 level. What will be more interesting to me is Apple for a pullback. Like, look at the market just took the lows. That is, what is that? 20 cents of a pullback on Apple. And we just saw that flush. Like Nvidia, which I just trailed out of, that was going to be the target. We'll take it, man. Anytime you can get something like that, like I don't know that it's going to accelerate like that. But look at the volume candle on the bottom. And then you wick the 134. So I'm not going long, but certainly getting out when I see that kind of a reverse. And Apple, if you can't have Tesla 400, I mean, Apple, that just reverted. Oh, Tesla's back at 402?
Yeah, Tesla dropped to 400 on that push. And then
Well,
we're just like, yeah, 400 bounce. I'm like, all right, well, it comes in 2 points off of that. Like,
damn.
Scalp definitely there.
Oh,
got to be fast. Got to be real fast. But 402 is testing right now on the ask. Nothing on the bid just yet. Getting there. Right now, you can see it right here. So there's 402s on the bid right here coming in on Tesla. Let's see how well it can hold
that
up.
was
403s and some change sitting at VWAP there. So if you're looking for that reversion off of, I was looking at that 400s. If we're looking at 400, 30s, 40s, and I was like, maybe, I don't know. And then boom, slaps up another 1.5. But I'm like, all right, it's a $400 ticker. I mean, a couple points is Tesla will eat a couple points for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You should see the opening action there that it has sometimes. Yeah, Google coming right back to the downside there. Oh boy, so that VWAP test incoming. So I want to see again. Like I said, maybe this was the place to get a little bit bigger.
Whoa,
here.
This is everything flush.
DJT as well.
Look at DJT rollover. Man, they're taking out everything. So DJT with I don't have enough.
Where's the bid?
Here, I'll use this one.
Look at the spider.
Gates of you know what. I mean, look, the market is pulling back, obviously, but this is an outsized move here in DJT. Flat bottom break. This is just a support. Loses support when the market's going, and you get a big capitulation. I'll zoom it out for anybody that if you happen to be trading this or watching it, yeah, you're gonzo. 33.5 would have been the first spot. Zoom it out a little bit further. What can we see out here? Oh, there's so much room.
We were talking about shorting that Tesla.
Look where the turn is. 32.75. Like, you just pick. If you're looking for a mean reversion, like one of these levels, which is obviously not going to hit that one, that's where you look for the turn. But man, that Tesla 410. So I'm going to show you the chart of Tesla, and not to jinx it or anything, but like it lost a day-long trend here on Tesla, and then failed the high, and then lost this trend, and then look at the acceleration. So obviously a pretty good opportunity in Tesla if you were looking for that short, which we weren't. We can double check on Nvidia before getting to Apple. Yeah, Nvidia, it looks like it was the right call. And you don't have to, when you're looking for a reversion, you don't have to go long, but if you're short and you're like, that would be a long, then that's an out. Right? So we get out 134, you're back 134.5, still down 3% and looking incredibly weak. Because I just heard you say Apple. Apple did its mean reversion trade. This is the kind of thing about this trade. If you get something like this,
oh my God,
right? Like the whole idea is, how many times do you think 248.05 with 15 cents worth of risk, and VWAP's down here, right? Like your first area of support would be like theoretically here, 30 cents in the money, and then down here, 60 cents in the money with 15 cents. So that's 2-to-1 and 3-to-1. How many times do you actually that doesn't even have to work 50% of the time to be a good trade. This trade. Like if it's a coin flip, and as long as you're disciplined with your entry, you're not chasing it, and you're not holding past the top, right? You do those two things, and you need to have a defined, clear upward trend. It helps to have the confluence of the market literally, wedding all over itself, no questions asked. So I think that's an obvious opportunity. In absolute irony, when we pivoted to Nvidia to go short, I was shorted Intel off of VWAP, but I threw a stop on Intel to go into Nvidia. We stopped out on Intel. It went one more penny, and then right back into the lows. For the record,
what was your average on that one?
Oh no, the only price I was short at 30.
Oh wow, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, it's not so beautiful now, is it, Obi?
I mean,
this stock is a short till it's not, and let's just keep it.
Yes.
Look at this thing. Since it lost 23, you show me a green day because I can't find one. Well, I mean, I don't know enough Green Day songs to throw some kind of a clever pun out there. Just know that there you go. It's a boulevard of broken dreams because there are no Green Days here in Intel. Thank you very much, Fabian. It's just not a group that I know well enough that I could have done it myself. So that's why we're a team here. Intel's headed to $19, at least in theory, and I believe you come in looking for shorts until proven otherwise. And then at that point, you can be wrong. You can short this every single day with technical setups that work, right? Like shorting off 21, right? Every single day. Shorting flat bottom breaks, shorting pullbacks into VWAP. Everyone that sets up, and then you just be green on Intel. And then the day that it reverses, you'll end up like 9 wins out of 10 or something like that. Like there's nothing wrong with that kind of a trade. It's a simple plan. You guys are fantastic, RC. You guys all know. But the bottom, I don't know if the bottom's going to be in here yet.
Yeah.
I just looked back over at Nvidia. I'm not sure the bottom.
Much lower.
No, I'm talking in the market or any of these names.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, markets. You can see. I'm looking at the ES and the Nasdaq here. We are flushing quite aggressively going into this last hour here. So who's sitting short? That's the question. That's my question. And like who got in these shorts here? We were talking about shorting Tesla on the false break of that 409, and I was like, oh well, I don't know how I feel about that. Well, market doesn't care about my feelings or anybody else's. I had in that case, but that selling does come in quite aggressively on a false break and then consolidation break, and then now we're holding underneath VWAP as both the ES and the DAC kind of test their low of day. Oh boy. Kyle Burdett with the super chat. Neil, in the words of Wyclef, this market's gone till November. I don't understand the reference. I know.
Someone please call 911. Oh, because the market is falling. No, okay. First of all, we're not going down for a whole year. All right. What the siren? See, when you hit the siren, that's usually when I'm running overtime in the aftermarket show, which will be a fun one with Brian Shannon today in GameStop earnings, by the way. But we're not gone till November. Market's gonna be all right. This is a healthy pullback. That was a good one, Kyle. No questions asked. I definitely do like that one. You guys are all over it today. We appreciate all of you. Anytime you guys, if there's a symbol that you guys are interested in or that we're not covering, just let us know. Like I know we're looking at some of the same things. I'm gonna kick myself. Could have just held on to Intel, but actually this was a reload. Word of advice. If you're ever in the money on a trade, like in a general trend trade where you're just sort of holding and then you're adding, oftentimes if you're thinking, hey, I'm short here, I'm going to trail out above VWAP, then it's an add there. And if you're going to trail out here, then you might as well, I shouldn't say you might as well, but you can always just add to it and then give it to 30. Like you can just short it more at like 25 in a general trend or give it to 20. Why didn't I even give this to 25? That's the other reason. Why did I stop it at 22? Oh, yeah, because of Will Clark. Thanks a lot, Will, the thrill. No, but like it's just one of those, you're going to stop it there anyways, and it's on trend. And it's one of the things you want to consider, if you're trading multiple entries, multiple exits, that kind of thing. Just one more thing to go over, because I did see Eclectic Passions. I'm assuming you mean RGTI, not the warrants. RGTIW would be the warrants. And you could trade those if you want. It's just I can't imagine what the volume is going to be on that. Rigetti Computing, I believe they're in the cohort.
I think they've done some
of quantum computing.
Yeah.
But this is the warrants have done volume.
No, the ticker has done significant volume on the day.
Yeah, I mean the warrants. So the warrants are going to be cheaper, and the chart's going to be the same. But I watched this 3 million in volume, not really moving as much. I think a lot of times you just want to trade straight up. Like it's a $6 stock. It's done 212 million shares, right? So I wouldn't trade the warrants. If there's a halt, the warrants will stay open oftentimes. So then you can just then you might want to take advantage of it. But Rigetti, I mean, the way the market's taking, maybe this is where you got to look for some longs. So bounce off VWAP, bounce off $6. I know Sharif was all over this. I don't love chasing this late unless you get a good entry going into the end of the day on a name like this. I don't like chasing any tops when a move is already this extended at 315. So I think you want something tighter to $6 here, because like where are you really wrong? Maybe underneath here, like volume picked up here, like that's $5.60 maybe that you think you're wrong, or you could be wrong at like under 540. Like those are the areas where this thing is giving it up. Long at 630, unless you're swing trading it, that's a tough entry there. And we might have missed the boat on
Palantir,
some bounce plays there. Where's Palantir?
Palantir, yeah, well, just like you said, might have missed some bounce plays there. Palantir trading back above that 71.5 as of right now. So I did kind of get a little bit involved on that initial push down, but didn't get back in when it reclaimed that 71, and that's about 50 pennies off of that 71 as of right now. So I will be a little bit more patient for that one. That one kind of maybe potentially missed the boat on that one. But I want to know what tickers you guys have been trading on the day, and I can take a look at that. I'm looking for the next trade. A lot of these things selling off. Are we going to catch a bid? The market's looking like it's stalling a little bit here. How much time is left on this 15 minutes? So 13 minutes. So we just started printing this 15-minute candle here, guys. So a bit of a bounce here into, what is this, 6,050 here. We're trading below on the ES. Oh boy, are we going to hit that 6,000 today? I don't know. But that Tesla coming right back in. So that bounce off of 400, absolutely beautiful. Doesn't really look back at all, trading 403s as of right now. So the bounce highs were in and around 404s. So let's see if we can trade a bit higher there. 405s has been interesting throughout the day as well, it would seem. But yeah, I want to see what you guys have been trading. So I'm looking at the chat right now. People talking about DJT, Uber as well. Okay, so Uber's been pretty nice again. That with that Waymo news and stuff. Uber's been an interesting ticker off of that. This morning, I think I found out that Waymo is actually Google's one of Google's I guess projects or entities or however you want to call it. Yeah, no, Uber to the downside. Again, we got that strong selling earlier on last week. Off of that news, aggressive selling all the way from 72s to 65. So yeah, definitely putting in some multiples of ATR on that day. Does it really bounce? Not really. 67 highs, making lower highs day after day. And look at this puke, man, right off of the open. This is a 30-minute chart. So Uber with the continuation trade, and it's been kind of selling off more often than not off of the open there on Uber. That reaction low of that day one from that catalyst is sitting at 64.28. Maybe a little bit of support here. I have from 64s from prior on Uber, but yeah, no, we kind of rejected a few of these anchors as well, and I'm sure these anchors are pinned to earnings. This one definitely is, and I'm sure this one is as well. If we go far back enough right here. So yeah, we'll have to go to a higher time frame right here on the hourly. And yeah, we basically traded below those, some of those anchors from here. So yeah, there's that anchored right there from May. May 9th is when that anchored came in, and you can see we started trading much lower, and I have an anchored in from the highs as well, that aggressive push up that failed to follow through with an 87 high on Uber. We've pulled back almost 20 points, Neil. We're trading 65s as of right now. So I'm curious to know whether or not on this selling due to news of competition, do we trade even lower there below that 64? So
yes.
Nice continuation there. But again, lots of opportunity, I think. Neil's saying yes away.
Have you looked at a weekly chart?
Yeah, let's take a quick look.
Okay, so you lost the 200 period on the daily on Uber, and this is what a weekly chart looks like. I mean, I don't know. Like, would you be chomping at the bit to be picking up these longs? Like, why? Like, look at like the $60 level into a deeper gap to 48. Like, load the boat. That's a load. Yeah, 48 for sure. No, but like, why wouldn't you be headed to 60 or the August lows at 55? The 50 periods now, like I said, lost the 200 period on the daily, lose the 50 period just recently here on the weekly, close underneath that. That's almost like it's another leg headed to the downside on Uber. So I'm not really seeing the reason. That was you're in the trade that you're in. Obviously, the short. I'm not going to complain about the short on Nvidia, but in that moment that we're covering the turn on Nvidia, that was your chance on Tesla. That was it. That was the 400. It was look at the wick, look at the reversion. Now it's back to VWAP. If that program buying comes in, like we've seen the last 2 days on Tesla, I don't think it's the 400 level we'll be able to play off. It might just be VWAP. Let's go to Adair.
Keep an eye here in MSTR, which is actually pushing higher here right now, and a bit of a volume uptick on the 3-minute chart, currently up about 2.5%. There is some speculation here swirling around Twitter. Again, none of this confirmed. It started here with a screenshot of Bloomberg Intelligence speculating here based on, I guess, some expected buys that MSTR could be an expected buy for the QQQs as of the December 13th rebalance here. Then this was forwarded here and reposted by Tom Lee, noted analyst there at Fundstrat. So keep an eye, some speculation rolling around that MSTR could be involved in this Q rebalance. And it's worth noting MSTR was already on watch earlier today. Michael Saylor, via a pre-recorded presentation, actually advocated for the inclusion of Bitcoin on Microsoft's balance sheet at its shareholder meeting, but shareholders voted against the proposal. Back to you guys.
If MSTR goes in the queues, that's obviously going to be spicy. But on speculation, I don't know that I want to jump over to that name today. So obviously, if they go in and we see some continuation potentially tomorrow, then maybe you'll convince me that we've made a bottom in this stock. It just looks awfully weak. Hey, you know what? It's 2.5 points to the upside. You compare that to Mara, which is a miner, down 4. I haven't looked at coins, so I'm just going to do that for myself here. That's also down 1.5. So anything crypto related is weak, with the exception of MSTR. That's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm a little skeptical on that one. We'll see. It's obviously a big catalyst if it's able to be added. Kyle W. asking for us to check out Oracle. Yes. Start or day 2 play from earnings. A day 2. I don't know. We don't have necessarily crystal ball for you. Like, it could gap, certainly. So for a day 2 play, it's totally different. It's trying to make it. It's a double bottom if you include the aftermarket level, and we mentioned that, but it's still literally in the middle. What I like to look for is, see when it holds a bottom, your higher low support is right around 174. If 174 holds tomorrow at the open, I'd expect to move to 180. Like, that's the way I would approach it. And then 180 gives you a bit of a gap fill to 186. But you could be gapped to 172 tomorrow morning, and then that trade's not available because your support is gone. But for now, I do like it. As far as the afternoon trade, I haven't traded it a single time today. Looks like the program buy is already on. And I don't have any, I don't know where I would be chasing this for a trade today. But I know what I'd look for tomorrow, like that 174 to hold. Although, Obi's going to be back in the seat because I am off tomorrow and Sean will be back. So I will not be trading that 174 on Oracle. But that's what I'd be looking for tomorrow morning, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm kind of watching this Oracle as well again, as Kyle kind of pointed it out. Bit of a curl here going into the close, interestingly enough. But something else I do want to point out is Tesla's holding well above that 400 as of right now, Neil. We're trading at 404s, and it's kind of curling back up into that 405 area. So that 200 bounce, oh boy, that was it right there. It gave you about, well, if you had the 400, you could have risked about 50 pennies, and then you're about 4 points off of those lows roughly there. If you're getting in on the back through, maybe you like the 401s as well. So 401 again, I hesitated punching in the 50s and 60s above 400, and bit of a miss on that one there. I wasn't necessarily willing to take a whole point there, but the thing is, I gotta talk to myself a little bit, talk some sense into myself a little bit. I'm like, okay, it's Tesla, it's a $400 ticker. You're not gonna risk a point on it, like especially on a place where you maybe.
Do you mean a point or a buck?
What?
You mean a point or a dollar?
Like a dollar. Like
okay, because sometimes when we say point, like usually if I say point, I'm thinking 1%.
Okay.
So and I know sometimes I know that's confusing. I want to make sure people get that right. There's a difference between trading a $400 stock and risking $1.
Yeah, and
risking a point, which would be $4 on Tesla. Because usually, if I say I'm risking a point, I usually mean I'm risking 1%, which would be $4. But there's a couple of things. Let's go to the desk here with Adara because we got some movers here going into the close.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is one of the ones you're looking at, Neil, but we do have Albertsons and Kroger doing distinctly different things here. We have Albertsons ACI here halted to the downside down about almost 5% around that $18 level. And then Kroger popping up here with notable volume. That is about 1.5 million shares traded so far on this one 15-minute candle, well above all the other volume candles here. I'm seeing no confirmation in this, but there is some speculation that the judge is going to be ruling on the Kroger-Albertson merger. So basically, if you missed it, Kroger was looking to acquire Albertson. We don't have a ruling yet, but it looks like this is being viewed as bearish for Albertson and bullish for Kroger, kind of similar to what we saw here with Tapestry pretty recently and Capri, where Tapestry on that merger not going through actually popped up, but Capri dropped. However, again, we do not have a definitive answer with regards to the merger yet. If I see anything,
beneath that on Albertsons. So it was never trading as if this deal was likely to go through at pretty much any point. And it's a triple at the current halt level. It's at a triple bottom on the daily. Underneath $18 is where the support has generally been here. So it's very likely if we get an open lower from here, it's indicating an open at 18. Underneath 18 would be that last line of support. Adara?
Just saying that we now have confirmation here. There's lots of reports that a federal judge has blocked the $24.6 billion merger between ACI and KR. So this merger has been blocked. We still have a downside halt for ACI. Currently here, we have a theoretical auction price for KR. Let me see if I can pull this up for you. It is going to be here, ACI. ACI here, theoretical auction price of $18, which is halted to the downside. Then Kroger, of course, to the upside. Pulling back now, though, guys. Back to you.
Wow, and just a couple. I want to acknowledge some super chats there. There was a question about Mongo that I wanted to get to. You know what? Let me just go to. That's funny because I know it was there for me and Respetto. But thank you, Ed Clark. Panic, get out. The top is in, and you have gapped underneath on the reopen of ACI. So it's at 18 level. If it gets back above 18, remember that's the support on the daily. Nvidia headed lower. Thank you very much, Ed Clark. It's actually halting to the upside now, so I'm not. That's a no touch zone, halting to the upside on ACI. And then Ian Respetto, thank you. Does Mongo look like it can bounce back to at least VWAP today? So first off, you guys just saw live, I can't make it up. I was looking to see if it would fail at 18 because that was level on the daily and then pull back. Instead, it opened 17, which I was expecting an 18 open.
Yeah, down to
that was
17.
the tap. Yeah. It opens at 17 and halts up underneath 18. So that was sometimes those tap values, it is what it is. It opens wherever it decides to open. Some people don't put their orders until the last second, and that's why you can have that. But wow, Albertson's going nuts here on ACI. Mongo, if you're going to get to VWAP, it's going to take something special. This has been holding trend. We talked about this in the lesson of the day. Once it lost $320, zoom out to the daily chart. Once it lost that level, it's been only trend down. There hasn't been a bounce in sight. And it's with the market here. This was one of those. It was up and strong, and then after hours and overnight after the call, it got a big reversal. Good news on the daily chart would be, hey, you're pulling back into something here. The 50 period in this area around 280, although it's a very wide area, had been support before, but there's just not much in it that would suggest it has any bounce in it today. When you're watching. Yeah, you're watching a game. It's like even if it's like, this is a good team and they shouldn't be losing, but you can just sort of see they don't have it. Are they going to pull a fourth quarter comeback down 15? Usually they'd be able to. It happens in the NBA, but it's a good team. But they're just flat. That's the stock. It's at a support level, but there's just zero indication that you should do anything. If you're short it, you're laughing. Don't tell me. Of course.
Oh boy.
Of course. Why not? They just blocked Albertsons. Why wouldn't U.S. Steel halt to the downside? Right? This is the other deal in question. Nippon's supposed to be buying U.S. Steel. So shocker, halted to the downside is U.S. Steel, probably just on sympathy. probably literally for no other reason than ACI or the Albertson deal was blocked, or, oh no, never mind. There is a headline. Biden set to finally kill this deal.
So it hasn't happened yet, but he's set to do it.
They're killing all these deals today. Yeah.
So market on open buyer.
Well, U.S. Steel, I mean, it's a little bit different if you look at where it is on the. If you looked at where ACI was on the daily, ACI was at the bottom. So that's like if this was halted down at like 29, 20 down here, yeah, I might take a shot to take the bounce long. But this is halted down at 35.60. Like you got something at 34, and then last I checked, that is a wide gap from 34 to 30 here on U.S. Steel. So halted down, and again, I just heard the story. Biden set to finally kill Nippon Steel purchase of U.S. Steel. There's a lot of other things that are going on. MSTR is continuing to go higher. Alphabet, it's 330. We'll go to some of the imbalances, early look in the imbalances as well. Alphabet, which is making a bit of a move back to the upside. Nothing crazy. You got Pfizer early look sell, NU early look sell, XOM early look sell, Walmart a bit of a buy. Let's go to Adara.
Neil is correct there. We do have reports coming from Bloomberg that Biden is, quote, finally set to kill the deal between United States Steel, X and Nippon Steel. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because about 10 minutes earlier, around 3:20 p.m., we did have Nippon Steel announcing that it's committed to reward U.S. Steel's employees with a closing bonus of $5,000 here. Basically, of course, minus applicable withholdings once that transaction closes. So right after Nippon Steel offers this $5,000 closing bonus for U.S. Steel employees, once this merger closes, then we have reports that the merger is going to be killed. So keep an eye on X here. It's pretty interesting, the timing of all of that here. Again, reported by Bloomberg that Biden is, quote, finally set to kill the deal, that we know Donald Trump also recently said he wouldn't be interested in the deal going forward either. Back to you guys.
Rec Mayhem, good question. Could this have implications for Cleveland Cliffs? Remember, CLF wanted to buy U.S. Steel themselves. Sympathy moved to the downside. That could just be algo related, to be honest with you. But certainly, I don't know if that would get revisited. If you happen to be trading or looking at any buyout which is trading with a hefty premium, which would suggest that the deal is unlikely to go through, now would not be the best time to be on the bid, like for some sympathy moves down. You want to see the reaction of U.S. Steel. Sometimes you'll get multiple things bleeding, and they might bounce tomorrow, but you're really late in the day here. Obviously, the market is still taking it on the chin. Tesla, when is U.S. Steel going to open up? I guess in a couple of minutes if the volatility holds. Tesla, the 330 buying, at least the buying that we've seen in the afternoon, does not come in off of VWAP. You can see it pretty clearly. It just lost a bit again. So the 400, that was your chance, I think. And just to point it out, yeah, it gets better and better. So Nvidia was a good short. But you know what? It turns out you could have just held on to Intel. Like my decision was, hey, we like the weakness in Nvidia better. We'll slap a trail on Intel and we'll get short in Nvidia. Why not do both? They both stink today. You could just short them both. And I got out at the wrong time. It is what it is. Like you're not mad because it was a small win on the last shares, but we should have just maybe hung on to both. A couple of people have just said take a look at Walmart. Why am I looking at what's going on with Walmart here? Walmart. Okay, getting above VWAP. Yeah, it's looking. Walmart's a good stock, man. You know, market bleeding and it just cracked VWAP. That's what you want to see. You know, this has been a beast since the split. And if this is the extent of the pullback on Walmart, there's a lot to like. Like really, we're going to pull back for one day on Walmart, and now we're already going to be heading back to the highs. Yeah, this one just keeps going. I haven't touched this. I have it in my long term, but I haven't done any buying the stock in a long while, and I don't see any place at which I'm picking any up unless it makes some kind of a real correction to the 50 period. What an absolute beast this stock has been. Good for Walmart, man, as it continues to go higher. Market heading lower. Let's go to Adara, a little sector watch action.
It's an aggressive bid on
these
Blue
upside and downside movers in a big way on the S&P 500. I like to have a theme for this segment, so because we have this market continuing to sell off, I wanted to take a look at names that are trading sharply higher on the day. But I'll start with two that are not going to be covered on here. We have Tesla, which has been really strong all day. It's back above that $400 and nearing new all-time highs. Also not on here is going to be Kroger KR, as just reported there. Their merger between Albertson, the $24.6 billion merger, has been not approved there by a federal judge. So those are some catalysts and tickers you're not going to see on this list. But let's get to the ones that we are going to be covering. Google has held up really well here, up more than 5% today. Yesterday, so actually not even yesterday evening, yesterday midday, they announced their new quantum AI chip called Willow, built by Google Quantum. Basically, apparently, it's faster than a lot of supercomputers. So GOOGL here with the quantum catalyst sharply to the upside. Now we have Boeing here. Not often that we see Boeing to the upside, but actually, despite this double top, still looking great, up more than 4% here. There are reports from Bloomberg that the company has resumed 737 production. And we also had their deliveries for November. It's worth noting these were not great. We did have November deliveries of 13 commercial jets. Last year, so November 2023, the company reported 56 commercial jet deliveries for the month of November. But the resumption of production, a great look for BA. Then last but not least, another deal-related catalyst, Walgreens, WBA, initially halted, then pushed sharply to the upside here. Wall Street Journal reporting that the company is in advanced talks to sell itself to Sycamore Partners, which is a private equity firm. And this transaction is speculated to go through as of early 2025. So lots of deal-related catalysts today, guys. We'll see if we get any more as we head into the last half hour of the trading day.
Boy,
thank you very much, Adara. And so U.S. Steel did reopen. We just double-checked on another source because on my chart it's hard to tell. At 30, just above 31, and now halted up at 32.08. So that does catch a little bit of a bid. Obviously, I mean, you know, you can't see this one coming. The simple fact that it was right after Albertsons did this move, that's maybe the opportunity. Because I think, like, normally, like, if you see this, what you could do, I'm not saying, you know, whatever, like, it's you're in the past now. What you could do is the low of the day is just chilling out right here. Like, well, on the off chance that stop short 36, 37, 60. If it breaks the low, okay. Sell another one flush, why not? That's about all you could do with it, because by the time I noticed the news, it was already halted down. And then you see that you can't capture it unless you get the short in here, obviously, as you guys can see. We had a couple of super chats I want to make sure I acknowledge, just sort of got my attention, the last couple of moves here. First, Quentin Phillips, congratulations to you. Congratulations! It's your third day trading up 150. Thank you for tuning in. And shout out to our whole community. I'm glad to see it. Be curious, what were you trading today? Like, how'd you get the 150? We trading? I mean, obviously you could have traded Tesla long today. You could have traded any chip name to the downside. And then MN America. What do you think of Oracle? Will it bounce back up? I think we were just sort of talking about Oracle and like what I'd be looking for. I'm assuming you mean on more like on a higher time frame. I don't know if you mean on the day. There's only 20 minutes left in the day. Typically, we always talk about the cooling off period in the market. It's a long held, the 3-day rule after earnings, right? Like that's, people have been talking about that for as long as I've been around. And you give it a couple of points. I usually love to see you have a key level where it bounces off of, double bottom at 171. I want to see a hold of 174, so that's one. That's good. You know, I'll take that. And then you hold that level again tomorrow, and then I would look for continuation longs off the higher low. I feel like if you get down to this 171 bottom a third time, there's nothing good about it. And hey, Davis, you were trading Apple, so congratulations. Apple's been a good one today. Apple's super strong. Maybe we just get the 250 break tomorrow, Obi, for Apple.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, we'll see. I'm curious. What was that three? So you're looking for a 3-day hold off of earnings? Like, what is that rule? Or what?
Well, I just want let it hold a level for more. Like, so the day one you get a bottom.
Yeah.
Day two you get a double bottom.
Okay.
Right. Then day three, if it's still holding that low, then I would look for then I usually look for the long off of it, as opposed to, hey, it's held that low for one day. Let's just go long. You know, you want, like, let's see them confirmation that there's really buying after earnings. The stock goes down 9% after earnings, you know, missed on the top and the bottom lines, and the guide wasn't the best. are there consistent buyers the first couple of days before picking that initial bottom? You never know. Like, maybe it is just going to consolidate, but I'd love to see it. What do you want to do, Tesla? I think we can safely say the program buying that we saw in Tesla the last couple of days into the close is not here today.
About 10 more minutes left until those imbalances. None of that buying is anywhere to be seen. I guess there was a bit of buying from 400 to 405s-ish, but we can barely test 405 there on Tesla. How was this? Google, though. Google is pushing back to the upside here. Let me go back to a 3-minute here. That 1 minute's disgustingly choppy. I got to get rid of some of these wicks as well. Here, you know what? Let me just look at this right here. Boom. So look at that. Nice little hold of that VWAP there. I covered my last little piece on a break back above 184s because I'm like, all right, well, I'm short 70s. I don't necessarily want to be short going up if it's going to hold VWAP at a higher low there. So I'm just like, all right, well, maybe this is poised to run up into the close. I have no idea. With only about 20 minutes left, that's a bit of a tough one, and I don't want to be into the ticker if it's holding and breaking trend. This is not right. I got to get rid of this wick, which is all the way down at 160s. There it is. Let me just do 184 right here so we can get a better picture of that. Get rid of this wick as well. Some of these wicks, man, pretty wild. That's the one, 174. So make that 184 right here on the low. Boy, 180. Oh, because it's 183.90 is the open. That's why it won't let me edit that.
Oh, maybe.
There we go.
Tesla.
Boom. There it is. So 185 is coming right back in. Yeah, Tesla consolidation is nice. I got my eyes on. There's some bursts on the tape going in both ways. Some buying, some selling. Look at this market, man. Market 60, 40, 6,040s right here. A bit of a wick happening. So we are getting some buying going into the last 20 minutes of the day here. Same deal with the NASDAQ coming in with a bit of a 15-minute prior bar high break. What are the constituents doing? Who is bouncing? Alphabet coming in past that 185. Does that 185 hold as resistance? 185.01's coming in. So that prior high printed 185 to the T. Let's see how much further this can get past that 185 as of right now. Printing about 5 pennies above the dollar. Here we come in for the dime. Looking so fine, but I don't know if it'll continue. This is, again, lower highs on the day relative to that 186 technically, but we have been going sideways relatively for pretty much the whole day here. So strong range off of the open. Nice little reversion off of a 181.5. 182 hold, and we're pushing back above this 185 going into the close. So I like that. Maybe that bid is definitely a little bit there with the market bouncing as well. Something that, again, I kept on watching it and I'm like, where is this thing going to stop? Was the spider. Again, you can see the ES on the side, but I like looking at the spider a little bit. I mean, just as a vehicle to watch and use as an indicator, and maybe kind of trade off of it as well on some market moves. I liked this move right here, but I was like, all right, well, look, this is some aggressive selling. We were accelerating past that VWAP. We're expanding in this volume. Again, coming into the 600, 602s, breaking some prior levels as well. You can see prior week low is sitting in and around, well, the pre-market low from prior week, sitting around 601s. We're trading 602s here on the spider. So I'm like, all right, when is this bid going to come in? Going into the last 15, 20 minutes, maybe, perhaps. Let's see if this follows through. But Alphabet is definitely the stronger one of the bunch here. Let's take a quick look at Meta. Oh boy, Meta to the upside, AVGO. And these are kind of like the tickers that not necessarily part of, well, Meta is definitely part of Mag 7, but AVGO questionable, and Berkshire as well. But you want to take a look at the top constituents. That's the idea, right? So again, if you want to do that, I like this website right here called Slick Charts. So you can go to Slick Charts right here. You can see, you can take a look at the spider. Yeah, right here, S&P 500. You look at the companies, close the ads, and then you can see how they're weighted kind of day by day right here. So the current weighting of the spider is Apple, Nvidia, Softy, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Alphabet, AC, Berkshire, and then Broadcom. So those are the top 10. JPM as well. I know JPM had some news. Lilly's up there as well. There's all of these strong UNH. Hello, Visa, Exxon. So yeah, maybe you got to take a look at some of those names as well. take a look at Lily. Neil's asking.
Actually, one good thing that I think
Wow.
you should always consider, or at least I know I consider this one a lot, is when you own individual names,
Yep.
but you also have a core position in the futures.
Yes.
Understand, if the bulk of my holdings is the SPY and the Qs, how much I already own of Nvidia and Apple. So it's like, oh, I've got X% of my portfolio was in Apple. Yeah, and how much of your portfolio is the Qs? Well, if it's 25%, well, then you own, right there another couple of points of Apple in your portfolio. And that's something to keep in mind, because obviously, a lot of people, not everybody does that. That's one thing I always do. Like if I think about my percentage of holdings, like in a Google or whatnot, I keep in mind that I own a lot of the Qs in the SPY as well, in addition to individual stocks, because I like the overweight in some things. U.S. Steel, what a buy off the bottom.
Yeah, that was
Unbelievable. But what do you...
moo buy. That was a moo buy.
Yeah, this
sure.
one
Market
here,
unopened.
that's nuts. And I guess maybe you could have had the second one that pulls back in. If I shouldn't say there's no chance. It would make no sense to me if this got back into the high 30s. I think that would be a fade all day there.
Like you're talking about 36 to 37s, back.
Yeah, if it got back to where the support was,
that might
up
even
here,
blast. Because think about everybody who got short off of that news.
But they would want to hold overnight is the only thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's late. It's only 3 or 4 minutes to go for sure here. So X's ticker is X. Cal Mando. It's just
that's U.S. Steel, not Twitter.
It's not Twitter. It's a U.S. Steel that we're talking about here. But the
coming back
imbalances in about 3 minutes, and Tesla, we thought there'd be buyers in the afternoon on Tesla, we've seen the last couple of days. They're just not there today. So I've been looking for that after we got to the Nvidia trade, and we're just not seeing it. So Tesla right back down into 400. That program buying, it's just not continuation. What you want to see is buy, hold, continue. And once I saw that, I was going to punch long. But it's just not happening whatsoever. Early look on imbalances, it was XOM to the sell, NU, Pfizer, all over 1 million, HPE over 1 million, Verizon over 1 million, and then Walmart to buy, everything else to the sell side. But that can change. At 350, we'll let you guys know what these come out as live, if there's any significant imbalances in play. Just going to double check on where's Nvidia. Yeah, I mean, it was a mean reversion on Nvidia. You could see the biggest volume candle in the afternoon, broke the 134 and then came back above. Since then, worth noting, 135 resistance on Nvidia, but it's in the higher lows. This is not a reshort this for me at all. You're just seeing higher lows, and profit taking at the end of the day would be shorts covering after they've won the entirety of the day. And look at the NASDAQ. Bottoming tail and trying to get back higher. Yeah, this is not one where I'd be trying to make some kind of last-ditch short, even though that's the one thing we did that was pretty easy, was jumping into a short trade. All right, Tesla's still at that 400 level and doesn't seem to want to go. It's not. I don't think it's to be. It's not to be today.
I wonder how many 400 calls we're washing today. I was looking at some of the open interest of those 390s coming in today. Those had some decent volume as well.
Yeah.
390 puts, not calls. Yeah, interesting stuff here on Tesla. Some decent moves, but Adam Blue's asking, did I get into that $31 fill? What do you mean on 31? Which ticker? I don't think I traded anything. That was maybe
U.S. Steel's low is 31.
Oh, that's what you mean. Oh, on the move. Yeah. I think that was a nice idea. I don't know if I wanted to put on any risk on that trade, but I guess it worked out really well, right? A bit of a reversion happening. Again, drops down from 37s?
Well, the thing that you can do
37s, 38s. It drops down. It drops down to 31s. That's crazy. Even regardless of the news.
Well, the only thing I would suggest is there's no reason to have used the market on open order. You could have just used a limit, because what you can do is, if you're when it's indicating in the last minute, it's probably going to indicate an open close to 31. You can put a limit buy so that if it opens at 35, you're not going long. And just maybe go limit 32. So you're only getting it within $1 of where it's indicating the open. And then you can also just be ready. So you know you're getting the fill. If it's at that price, you can have a stop order ready to go underneath $30 or something.
Yeah.
But if you put a market on open order, what if it just opens right back up here? Did you really want that long? You never know. A market, I pretty much, unless I'm in position and covering a position, I'm not using a market on open off of a halt. That's just not, there's always a price you're not willing to pay. And especially in a situation like this, it could have opened back up at like 35. The imbalances are dropping in about 10 seconds or so.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. Tesla holding on to 400 just ever so slightly.
Everybody.
The market holding on to some lows. You're only down 0.5%, but it seems worse than that. So Nvidia, 3.3 million to buy on Nvidia.
Wow.
That's the big one. Intel, a buy of 1.7, but it's only a $20 stock. Paramount, Para's 1.3. But the big one's Nvidia. I don't see Tesla on here. Microsoft, a small sell of 800,000 shares. But the big one is obviously Nvidia with that 3 million plus buy and balance. So Nvidia, a nice little spike. Probably a good idea not to have shorted that at all. Tesla's trying to catch a bid here as well, but it's Nvidia is a significant imbalance at that at 350. Watch out for 355. I would expect that to pair off. Usually does. There's the buyers on Tesla, just a little bit late. Supposed to happen at 330. Come on now.
Oh, are they okay? All right. We're gonna come back in 400.
Maybe.
So let's see. I gotta get some charts up for this one there. Okay, so what was that low? 400 halves is the low there. We'd be risking about 2 points. Yeah, I don't know if I want to really do that as of right now. But if we break back above this 405, then maybe, maybe potentially here. But right now, I guess if I'm going to give it real risk, it's probably down to 400s or maybe this consolidation low at 401s. Market's bouncing. Market's closing pretty much near lows here. Tesla's still trading underneath its VWAP. As of right now. So you can see pretty much sideways on the day after we got that nice little run up into 408s in the morning. But the VWAP hold was, I guess, a place to be, and coming right back into the close is that VWAP area here, a bit of a strong consolidation. So we pulled aggressively into that VWAP. Look at that volume coming in, and some of that low being made with some, not the highest, but some of the highest volume on the day here on that drop down into a low of 399.53 on Tesla. So a bit of a failure to follow through to the downside on that Tesla off of that 400 test. So I guess that was really nice, but you had to be pretty much a sniper to get in on that back through 400. Again, I saw it for 450s and 60s, and I didn't really want it. That was a mistake on my part. I'm just being a little too stubborn there. The trade is still on technically off of a 400 failure to follow through. Just because I don't like a 1 point risk, it doesn't mean the ticker won't bid up off of that strong action. But nonetheless, it did. Market coming in for a bounce here with only about 8 minutes left. What's up, Adair?
Great V-shaped recovery here for Ripple. Yes, that is XRP to USD. We get a little bit of a pop-up here. Keep in mind, we were initially pretty red on the day. As we have CEO Brad Garlinghouse announcing that Ripple Labs here, or XRP, has officially received final approval from the New York State Department of Finance for its stablecoin RLUSD. We don't have a date as to when the stablecoin will be announced, but Brad Garlinghouse in his post did also say that exchange and partner listings will be soon to come, and the actual announcement of when RLUSD is live will be coming from Ripple itself. So I guess if you're looking for RLUSD, keep an eye on Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple, because they're going to be announcing that here. Nice look for this one to close out the day, guys.
There you go. I heard Obi just say "let's go" for that on Ripple, and there was a JSO
Ripple
asked if I hold Tesla my long term. I did respond in the chat. It's either my fourth or fifth biggest holding. When these things move around, like I got to double check. I try my best not to be checking my long-term holdings too often. The swing, the TFSA. Sometimes you'll have things there you want to keep an eye on, like a SoFi. But yeah, it's one of I'd say my core holdings is in Tesla for sure. So it's not even 355, and Intel's already headed back into the downside because it stinks. And Tesla, as you just said, it's really late for the bid to come in. I'm going to be getting up to the desk in a minute or two.
Who knows if it's still there?
But you're not sustaining. This is the problem. Like, the difference the last couple of days is it was sustaining this buying. Like, it was
distinctly different.
It was distinctly different.
Yeah,
it was all green candles on a 3 minute.
Yep.
All green. Like, there was not a red candle in sight, and you're definitely not seeing that in here today. So I guess it was just a 2-day type of thing. I just saw MSTR.
The first day was
from
aggressive.
Jameson. No, the first day was $13.
5 minute prior bar never broke until the 405. So not in the live market in the last hour. The 5-minute prior bar did not break the lows. It's aggressive, like just programmatic buying into the close, and we print what, 390s going into the close, and then even higher, 392s, 394s as well, and we hit I guess 410s today. So that buying definitely giving us a bit of a follow through on a larger time frame here, but we're trading back at that 401. So let's see. I don't know. In the coming days, I think 400 is a good level to kind of stay watching there. I don't know how.
What happened here?
People trade it with reference to options all the time, but in terms of some of those intraday options, again, yesterday I was like, oh, the open interest on those 390s looking a little nice, and it wipes all the way into the close into 390s again, showing up as a bit of an interesting price on day 2 of that bid coming in. But today, no real sign of a bid. A bit of a pullback right here on Goggle as well. Yeah, look at that Tesla coming right back in. So, yeah.
Wow.
Nothing really there. Again, did we pair? Yeah, that's 55. We're coming into 56 as of right now. So I guess we did
everything paired.
A little bit of pairing there going into the close. Interesting. That's a sell imbalance, and seems to be working out quite well. But yeah, no, some of these other names not really looking too interesting here on the imbalance list. I have, I guess, on the NY, I have some Pfizer, some Verizon, KMI. What is KMI again? KMI, I should know that.
You don't know
Kinder Morgan. Yes, okay. I'm like, I know that's familiar. But yeah, no, all of these coming in with a bit of a sell imbalance. Oh boy, the NYSE is full of sells on the day today. Look at this. Like VZ, Verizon.
Well, it is a red day.
Started selling, yeah.
It is a red day.
Nucor or New Holdings, okay, a bit of a down on the day. I was looking at XOM as well, and I was like, oh boy, XOM oil is selling off into the close, comes in with a decent sell imbalance. But yeah, Pfizer as well. Pfizer's been showing up as a sell imbalance multiple days on the NYSE. That's interesting. Doesn't always sell off on it, but showing up on the imbalances nonetheless right here.
Obi?
But yes, sir.
I'm going to head on to the desk. The Aftermarket show. Hey, we got GameStop earnings, Aftermarket. We'll have Brian, Shannon, myself, and Adara going to take you through all those earnings. So it's been a wild one. Thanks for filling in.
Thank you for
having me.
And
crush it tomorrow if I don't get a chance to mention. I'll be off tomorrow. Sean will be back.
We'll do my best.
And joining Obi for post, not apocalypse, but post down day, I guess. Yeah. Rebound day? I don't know.
Who knows? Maybe we get a reversion. We get a reversion.
I know
of the
you
selling,
want a reversion.
Maybe, I don't know. But here's the thing. I like the reversions. Don't get me wrong. I like the reversions. But there are other trades on the table. We do have more. Wayne and I were talking about this earlier. You got to have some more arrows in the quiver if you're trying to fight a battle. And the battle is long and hard. So it's trying to build more quivers on that one. But let's go to Adara. What's up?
Really quickly here, we only have 10 minutes left to the bell. I wanted to bring to everyone's attention, I have the Tesla chart pulled up, and you'll see why in a second here, but basically Donald Trump here posted a truth post. I don't know what that, here basically saying that any person or company investing $1 billion or more in the USA will receive, quote, fully expedited approvals and permits, including but in no way limited to all environmental approvals. Get ready to rock, 3 exclamation points. So I pulled up TSLA here because we know that Tesla CEO Elon Musk has been affiliated here with Donald Trump. Either way, keep an eye on these comments here coming from President-elect Trump, because this could be a pretty big game changer for companies that have $1 billion or more to invest in the U.S. Back to Obi.
That's some pretty exciting news. So basically, he's putting a ticket on if anybody wants to play, and he's saying you want to play the tickets. A $1 bill entry to the game there for some ease of policy. So we're coming in on that 400 going into the close. Only about a minute left right now. So thank you again all for joining us on the day today. Some crazy moves there. We saw Google doing over 5 times relative volume coming in off of the open. That is absolutely crazy, especially for a Mag 7. Not even a Mag, like it's like what, Mag 2, 3, 4 maybe. I don't know. It's up there. But again, Google doing some strong volume off of the open, giving us some decent opportunities for an opening drive trade. Tesla as well has been pretty wild. And again, I know you guys are trading some DJT and some coin and some crypto-related names. Those names have been pretty nice as well. So yeah, this market's pretty decent over the past few weeks, and hopefully it'll stay for a little bit longer here. But we got the bell in about 10 seconds right here. Don't forget, we are brought to you by Worksport. Add that to your watch list today, WKSP on that. So 3, 2, and 1, market is closed right here. So hopefully you guys had a decent trading day. A lot of great opportunities once again. Hopefully you guys learned a thing or two. Remember, don't forget, whether you're red or green, did you follow your process? That's kind of that kind of dictates process and progress over time. And yeah, we're always trying to get better with that process. We talk about how kind of again, how could I have had better process on the Google trade this morning? How can I take the reversion underneath that 185? What was the process for that? Why am I getting in on a little bit of a chop before it's even getting to 185? Maybe should I be waiting for that confirmation to get in on a move later in the later half of the day into VWAP? Or do I get short off of lower highs in the morning when there are strong reasons to sell to get out of the long? So all things that I'm definitely going to be thinking about. Then again, I will see you guys tomorrow. Don't go anywhere, though. We got Neil and Adara at the big desk with your market recap. Take care, guys.
Thank you very much there, Obi. Man, the market tried. It was kind of a flattish day. You had some strength in tech, and then you had weakness in the SPY, and then the SPY tried to bounce, and tech lost it. And obviously, we ended the day in negative territory, and we could not hold on. There was so much strength. You know, there was so much strength in a few names today. I mean, you had Tesla, which I was going to get to, but we'll get to that one maybe a little bit later. You had Apple breaking all-time highs, and actually this one ending up green. I mean, you had Microsoft, which was consolidating for a nice little level break, holding the markets and then going higher. Yeah, and then obviously I know we were talking a lot about Alphabet, because of the catalyst, specific catalyst for them and the quantum chip, and that looked like it was making a run. But that was not enough, unfortunately. And why was that not enough? I place the blame solely on you, Chip Space, because once again, Nvidia down 3%, trending pretty much the entirety of the day to the downside. It just could not get off the schneid. AMD was incredibly weak. Intel, the entire space was not looking very good. So a bit of a disappointment there. Overall market, probably a bit of a healthy pullback, but you got to be able to look for the positives, at least temporarily. Tesla's trying to hold on to that $400 level, and Apple's been an absolute beast. Tesla's going to end up closing and holding the 400 almost to the dime. Apple, an absolute rocket ship. Now it's not just GameStop earnings, everybody, which are due at 405.
They do exist, but
they do exist, but we also have Stitch Fix and who is it again? Play. It was Dave & Buster's.
All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
I completely agree with that. What is crazy, this chair, and we're live, I swear this chair is like sinking as I'm sitting in it. So
that happens to me all the time.
I feel like every now and then I'm going to have to raise it because it's already starting to, like it's just doing it on its own. Like it's a little bit eerie. Like I feel like I'm going to be sinking underneath the desk by the end of the aftermarket show. So they're all due at 405. The biggest implied move of the three, believe it or not, is not GameStop, is not Play. It's actually Stitch Fix has the biggest implied, but they're all double digits. We're expecting some movies here at Era.
Yeah, people are saying here what they care about is GME. We totally understand that. Don't worry, we will be giving you the GME earnings coverage. We're just letting you know there's some other things swimming around here as well, including Marvell, which is not reporting earnings, but they did get a little bit of a volume pop here at the close. Basically, apparently launching 1.6 TBPS chipset here for AI data center interconnect. So basically announcing a chipset here, or launching a chipset for AI data centers. So any AI-related catalyst, especially if you're a chip company doing it, that's going to be a good look. Marvell getting a little bit of that volume pop here at the close. And yeah, Neil's the 1 minute chart.
It's a
pulled
beast.
up. I'm just seeing that's a great look. It's something to marvel at, that's for sure.
There you go, something to marvel at. And their earnings move was also something to marvel at. This gapped up on earnings. I mean, the chip space pulled back, so you can't really fault it for being flat on the day. Everything had pulled back. But this was just breaking 100, got to 120 on earnings. And then now you're getting a little bit of a dip with the rest of the market. So nice to see it rebound. I don't know if you'll see that 120 in the short term. The other interesting story was that Intel wanted to take they approached the Marvell CEO which I kind of chuckle at because, like, why would you leave a company that's at all-time highs, which is just a smidgen underneath the market cap of Marvell, like, or Intel's just a smidgen above the market cap of Marvell. It's kind of like a lateral move. So GameStop is here trading at about 27 1/3. Clearly going into earnings, it's not doing so on strength as it's pulling back, and it's already starting to move here. GameStop just made, not a huge one, but it just moved $1 to the downside, down to 26.5, now back to 27. So you are getting some action. Now a little bit of a pullback, trying to get back up to the high. So down candle, exactly when earnings are expected to come out. GameStop is out. Daryl, what are the numbers? I'm just going to double check. We also have Stitch Fix reporting, as well as Dave & Buster's.
Yeah, I'm making these sounds because the biggest thing that I think is worth noting here is they have net sales decreasing on a year-over-year basis. Net sales of $860 million versus $1.078 billion last year. So that is a decrease on a year-over-year basis. How does it compare to estimates? Well, again, I always like to use this caveat. Sometimes there's different analyst estimates that are used as a general consensus. Based on consensus I'm seeing, we're expecting $900 million in revenue for GME. They did report $860 million, so that would be a miss. But again, we're going to have to wait and see here. Okay, there we go. They did, in fact, miss. That was, I guess, the consensus estimate there. So they did report GAAP earnings of 4 cents per share. They're not showing how that compares to estimates, but I was seeing estimates of 0 cents per share. So it looks like they did beat for GAAP earnings, but they did miss on sales, $860.3 million versus $887.7 million based on the estimates I guess these analysts are seeing. It's also worth noting Joby just announced here an equity distribution agreement to sell up to $300 million worth of common stock. JOBY is one that can sometimes move. Let's see if we have play here.
Stitch Fix is flying.
Oh, Stitch Fix? Okay.
Stitch Fix is up 30%. Remember, we told you, what's the one with the biggest implied move? It wasn't GameStop and it wasn't Dave & Buster's, it was Stitch Fix. And this one is flying 7% short float. There you go. If you wanted to squeeze play, maybe this is it. And oddly enough, it doesn't even look terrible on the daily chart. This is where it's gapping above, a big key $5 level here for SFIS. Stitch Fix pulling back a little bit, now 27% to the upside, as this one is absolutely flying. Holding on to 590 even on the way back here. And just very quickly, GameStop did bounce, got back to 27. So this is trading rather calmly here on GME. Like it's not really tanking. It's only a 5% move. You're expecting double digits, but Stitch Fix with the big play to the upside so far. And Dave & Buster's, we were expecting Dave & Buster's at 405. Can't be out. This is going sideways here. It's all about Stitch Fix as this one continues to hold some of those highs. A little bit disappointed that we didn't see more volatility in GameStop so far, but it's still early. Anything can happen.
Yeah, I just really want to quickly, I was just going to put it in the chat, but I'll say it out loud here. Michael P. asking about Mama earnings. They were supposed to report at 4:05. Instead, this morning they actually said they're rescheduling their results. They're now going to report Monday, December 16th. So keep an eye here after the close next Monday. That's when MAMA will be reporting their earnings. I'm also seeing reports here that apparently GM is going to stop funding Cruise's robotaxi development. Let me see if I'm seeing any confirmation here. That I'm just seeing this spin around in social media. So be aware of that. But just you could keep an eye on GM potentially with that story. I'm going to go over some of these GME earnings, though. They did have a 20% decrease on a year-over-year basis for net sales, which is on its own not great. They did have here an increase here for net income on a year-over-year basis, $17.4 million compared to a loss of $3.1 million last year. So they actually made money this year. Again, nice increase here for GAAP EPS on a year-over-year basis. Their gross margin also improved, but their operating loss here did have a bit of a decrease. So they lost $33.4 million this year compared to $14.7 million last year. So they more than doubled their operating losses. There was, however, an increase in cash and equivalents. $4.62 billion versus $929 million on a year-over-year basis. So they quadrupled that number. It's a really mixed report overall. There's a lot of numbers that are great. There's a lot of numbers that are eeks. So we'll have to wait and see how the traders react. We know with GME, it's always going to be a little bit more sentiment than the fundamentals sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. And just a note here, it looks like Stitch Fix's guides are beats across the board. And I don't know if you mentioned Joby.
I did, yeah.
Okay, you did mention Joby. I don't know if we went to the price action. Joby was dropping on that offering about 10% at one point at the lows. And just to give you the price action of what's happening here in some of the earnings names, GameStop is right back, bouncing off 26. You're only getting a 5% move here no squeeze, no real gigantic flush. I think the bigger story, obviously, is going to be Stitch Fix. So they did make a beat, their earnings beating, but also beating on guidance. It is pulling back a little bit here. So it lost the $6 level. There's just no buyers above $6 at this moment. Like, it's wicked above, but no continuation above the $6 level. And when you look at that daily chart, you got to keep in mind you're gapping away from a very large sort of like we close and get that nice break away from the $5 level. So you could pull back a lot before you even get to the prior resistance here on Stitch Fix. I think that's worth keeping in mind. So, that pullback from $6, it's a typical topping tail candle with the prior resistance at $5 on the daily. You would suspect that's where a bid would come in, and it would still be up it's still up if it gets down around $5. This is a $4.50 stock late in the afternoon. I don't know if you've heard anything. I mean, Dave & Buster's is still not really moving here. Maybe we're not going to get them at 405. Maybe it could be a little bit delayed, bit of a disappointment. And then another note, when you brought the news, I believe it was it Waymo News?
No, it's going to be GM and Cruise.
It was GM and Cruise. Uber flushed on that. So in sympathy, Uber with a move to the downside, down 3%. Uber is taking it on the chin lately, and it's just not getting any better. Another move down in the aftermarket for Uber, which seems as if, I don't know about the August lows, seems very possible. That's now only $8 away, but those August lows are big ones here for Uber. And it looks like after, you broke support at 68, and now you're consolidating under, why wouldn't you be retesting something around that $60 level? But not a very good look there for Uber. The big story, I still think, Stitch Fix, and then obviously we'll track GameStop, but anyone hoping for fireworks and a squeeze on GameStop, you'll be sorely disappointed this time through.
Yeah, you're not going to get it. And I think the other thing I really want to quickly touch on, Charlie Taff was asking in the chat, hey, does this news on GM or Cruise mean there's going to get a bit of a bump in Tesla? We haven't seen that yet, and I think maybe the reason is when you look at the fine print, it definitely could be a bit of a bearish look for Uber, at least a look for Uber, but it's actually not a bad look when it comes to these individual self-driving vehicles. GM is focusing their autonomous driving, or they're shifting their autonomous driving focus to personal vehicles. So they're no longer going to be looking at these taxis or these larger vehicles. They're going to be focusing on more personal vehicles, and they're actually expanding their Super Cruise across 20 models, and they're looking to integrate Cruise and GM tech teams. They're also, the only thing they really ended funds for is going to be the Cruise robotaxi development. They're basically also trying to, consolidate some of their funding to save $1 billion over time. So I would say the framing of the story is much more a cost reduction type story, and B, shifting focus rather than them scrapping Cruise entirely, because they're still heavily involved in Cruise, trying to shift ownership to 97%.
Thank you very much. And you know what? GM actually looking pretty good in the aftermarket. It's holding on to some of those gains. So pop through 53, tag almost $55, now pulling back to 54. This is right on the 50-period moving average, actually, GM. So it's really, really important support. If you look at this stock, since it made a golden cross, Since it made a golden cross, it's been an absolute tear. But there was one pullback into the 200 period, a second hold of around the 200 period at 45. Now the 50 period. If we lose that 50 period, I got to believe a retest of the 200 period is going to be in, where the real trend gets put to the test. So important level there for GM. And then, of course, GameStop for everyone. I know this is the one that everyone wanted to go. It's trying. It's back. It's not green. Obviously, it was down on the day, but it is now above the high. So GameStop, and remember, when the expected move is 15%, and last time it did 12%, basically the only ones winning are those writing options. Everyone else is taking on the chin here because you're not getting any volatility whatsoever. But it is trying to go to the upside. Bit of a false bottom in there in that it held $26. And what's good for that is, let me zoom in this chart. The fact that you could not break and hold underneath that 26, that's the support on the daily for GameStop. So your bull case would be, hey, when it's not good, the level that holds is local support on the daily, wick bottom, and now it's trying to break out the top. I think the other part of that problem is the last couple of weeks, if we're not breaking 32, we're not squeezing. You know, I wouldn't be putting it's a great trade if you end up along off of 26 and it gets to 32, that's a great return. But if this is not going parabolic and it's not squeezing anybody out till it takes out this key $32 level, that's what everyone would have been hoping for, right? Like you go up 20% from here, that gets you above that 30 and into 32 and gives you the big move. That's what I was hoping for on GameStop if we're going to at least attempt to do some kind of a squeeze, which to me is a play you're looking for, not necessarily fundamental. Did they say if they're buying any Bitcoin? I think it's a question people want to know as well about them, because I feel like that's been the new magic recipe. I mean, they have cash. Yeah. Clearly the core. Cash. I mean, the core business isn't going to be what brings them back.
No.
So what are you going to do? Like, what's the pivot here for GameStop? It's a squeeze play. It's a gimmick play, for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of plays, we actually did get play earnings.
Oh, there we go.
Before we bring Brian Shannon in, we did have third quarter revenue, $453 million. That is down 3%
Yikes.
On a year-over-year basis, and it's also lower than the estimate I'm seeing. And again, sometimes the estimates vary, but it's lower than the estimate I'm seeing of roughly $460 million. They also did have a 7.7% decrease in comparable store sales. Eeks. They have net losses here of 84 cents per share, and then per diluted share, it's going to be a 12-cent loss. We're seeing estimates of 42-cent loss per share, so I'm not sure if that number or that estimate compares to either of those numbers. One number I am seeing that might be comparable is a 45-cent loss per diluted share for their adjusted net loss, but that still misses estimates of a 42-cent per share loss. So just to summarize, looks like they missed on both metrics and a 7% decrease for comparable sales on a year-over-year basis. This feels like Starbucks' report with all these comparable store sales decreases.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot to play around with here if you're looking for a long, I guess. But I know we do have our guest coming in soon.
I enjoy Dave & Buster's. I haven't been in quite some time, but you're not enjoying this move to the downside. Now, it dropped a good $3, actually $4 at the worst, and you're probably, you're going to be retesting some pretty key levels. It was breaking trend and trying to round to the upside. Unfortunately, the continuation is going to have to wait on play. It's, this roller coaster is not over for them. But you know what? It's Tuesday. On Tuesday, usually I don't get to do the after show. And that means I don't usually have the opportunity to talk to Mr. Brian Shannon. Let's get into some trader talk. Always love it. Always excited. Always happy to talk some shop here with you, Brian. Welcome, Brian Shannon, everybody. CMT from Alpha Trends and our favorite technical analysis wizard. Crazy markets here, Brian. I mean, like today you had Apple making fresh highs. You had Tesla teasing them, Nvidia dropping like a rock, AMD dropping like a rock, Google looking incredibly strong. The Mag 7 are all doing their own thing, which is great as a trader. I know it can be frustrating for some that want everything to just, they all go up at once, they all come down together. But as a stock picker, as a day trader, it's a lot of fun because you just be in the right one and we're just trending.
Nicely done. Picking off some longs in Nvidia today, too, against the trend, as you pointed out, Neil. I mean, the market got a little overheated the last couple of weeks. I mean, everything was working. Everyone was a genius and making a lot of money. And those are fun times. But when we get those times, it means, just be aware and know where your stops are. Don't think you're too smart because you typically get a little bit of a digestion of the gains, and that this is just a normal little pullback so far. And the bigger concern, I guess, is the semiconductors have been the weakest lately, and they're the girl we brought to the dance and the one we want to stay with, but it doesn't always end up that way.
Well, we were all in high school and junior high, so we know that that's going to be true. But you're at, look, the concern level, what are we at? Like a yellow alert here on Nvidia? It's certainly not red alert when you're this close to the highs.
No.
But just now we're losing the 50 period. And I have a loose trend line drawn here. I mean, obviously, when you have the major moving averages looking like this, you don't necessarily need a trend line. But I mean, it's been holding a pretty good one, which I think gets tested tomorrow. We've lost the 50 period. And there's not a heck of a lot standing in our way other than 130 on Nvidia. And they're not alone because, I mean, AMD's already been weak. Intel's kind of bad, and they've always been bad. But you have the entire group, even on strong days. The dip buying's just not there. And it feels, and correct me if I'm wrong here, doesn't it feel like there's some rotation? Like, if you're getting out of the chips, then maybe we should. It's like moving into Google and moving into Apple. Like how quickly was Google getting bought up this morning when Nvidia wasn't, and they've got their quantum chip announcement today. So do you see it as a rotation, which is healthy, or do you see it as, no, this is just straight up weakness in a strong sector, what used to be a strong sector?
Yeah, I think for the semiconductors, I mean, we've gone nowhere in the last 6 months, really. We've come down to the 200-day moving average here today, and that has held on the prior 3 tests, 1, 2, 3. That's the 200-day moving average right there. What I'd like to see, actually, Neil, is a little bit of a bounce, make a lower high around that red 20-day moving average, and then come down and test the year-to-date anchored VWAP down near 230. That's what I would like to see, but the market doesn't care what I want. Maybe it's going to hold this 200-day moving average, but Nvidia has, since the earnings report, really hasn't done much of anything. It's put in a lower high. So this was the high from the earnings. This is the lower high. We have this low, and if we're to undercut that low, I think that what we're likely to see is maybe a test of this anchor from the September low right here. And so a little undercut of this little band of support that people are looking at, undercut that, and then see a pretty good little bounce perhaps up towards this 140-ish level. And then we'll see how it handles that 20 and 50-day moving average. So as much as it's down from 146, we've lost 11 points so far here in the last 3-4 days. Maybe we've got a little bit further downside, and then I think we're probably due for a good little bounce that makes another lower high.
So I have to ask this question because I just saw that on your chart. Is it just me? Did you have a line underneath the August low? Because one of the things I'm thinking about on anything that's pulling back right now, I know we talk about earnings and anchoring off of earnings, but I mean that August 6th in our morning show, people were talking. We were getting questions. What is the limit down rule for the S&P 500 that morning? It was such a gigantic event, and literally every single major stock, bought up huge at that open. There were a lot of buyers at that moment. I've got to think that anchors and support levels from that August 6th low on anything that's weak, we got to start thinking about those because a lot of people bought that. There was a moment to buy. You couldn't even get filled. I couldn't get filled on Apple that day off the open, and I wasn't alone.
Right. So here's the way I kind of look at it in stages, is that first, for Nvidia to be down 11 points, that's a big sell-off, and it's going to attract a lot of buyers. The 50-day moving average is still rising. So if we undercut this, bounce up, make a lower high, then I think the next drive lower probably brings it down to that green anchor from the August 5th low. So that's the way I think that is the normal way. So, I think it was Linda Bradford-Drashke that says, markets will do the most obvious thing in the least obvious way. I think it's obvious it will come down to this level, but what's less obvious would be undercut this, get some short sellers, hit some stops under there, squeeze them hard, make people chase it, come down, get trapped below a declining 20-day moving average, see that 50-day moving average trap it as well, and then the next push down into there. So I'm trying to think a couple steps ahead, and that's always, dangerous because thinking a couple steps ahead is fine, but making sure you don't get married to that belief and start thinking that it's actually a blueprint that the market has to follow.
Well, it's so interesting that you say that because it's like chess, right? Like the ability, you can see multiple moves ahead, but you have to remember those are all separate probabilities. And I had a mentor early in my trading career who said something along the lines of, you can think that a stock is going from point A to point B, but there are 15 ways that can happen. And you want to capture as many of those probabilities as you can with your trading plan. Or like you want something of an execution plan that'll align with the few ways that can happen. So it's not just going to be perfect. You don't just buy at one spot. Hey, it goes right to my level. But can I ask you a question here? I know we have a lot of people that are watching, that have been following GameStop earnings and the meme craze, and we had Roaring Kitty come back, and the stock didn't really. Let's be real, it kind of fizzled a little bit here. And my fear with some things like the squeeze names and your high risk type of names is you have a weird thing going on. You have Nvidia, which is pulling back. You had Bitcoin with lost 100,000. This would be a very scary time for a meme stock to lose the bid, in my opinion. because when you already have a few things which are like risk-off type places, like this is threatening. And don't get me wrong, like Warren Kitty comes on, the stock does not even break out of its range. Earnings just came out. It does not break out of its range. Do you ever, do you look at GameStop? And then B, what do you think about the high risk type of names in an environment where Bitcoin can't seem to hold 100,000 and you're getting some signs of pullback? C3AI was up, then it was down. These kind of growthy names are starting to pull back here. What do you think about the meme stocks in that environment?
Yeah, Neil. I mean, so as the market got overheated, we've seen a lot of the high flyers the last couple of days. You know, Kava was one I was talking about today,
Yes.
and that actually is right down to that August 5th anchor. That's what I was pointing out right here today. So these are the types of names when they come in really hard like this becomes the level of interest, just as people are giving up on them. So, you know, a decline from 152 to 127, that's a huge move. That's 35 points. So as they flush out, I think that in people start to panic, then it's time to start looking at them for that bounce quality to say, hey, it's not going to go straight down to here. And or maybe it does, right? But that's why we have stops. But what's more likely is maybe something along the lines of this to rally up. So when you look at a stock like GameStop, you know, to me, it's not a stock that I get involved in. It doesn't trade. When I look at the 30-minute time frame, I just see too much volatility. I look at the personality of the stock and I see all these major spikes like this. I'm too old for that, SH. We're on a live program, so you know what I mean.
Yep.
But this does not suit my personality. Yeah, it has some great moves, but people get hung up on the up moves and forget about these downward spikes. It's not my wheelhouse to trade in those. I like to look at the ones that are a little bit saner, hopefully, at least where I think I have a better opportunity to manage risk. And, you know, the market's been talking to us the last few days. It's been, you know, some of the leaders are starting to get hit, stops or getting hit. That is, we're below declining 5-day moving averages. That just means, hey, listen to the message of the market. The market is telling us just go a little bit slower here right now. The risk appetite isn't as strong. Bitcoin's not holding the 100,000 level. So let's just let things settle out a little bit and, look at stocks on their own merits. But when I see this higher risk environment, I'm going to still trade the setups that I see, but with smaller share size typically.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice, Brian. I know before we get you out of here, last thing I wanted to ask you, we're end of the year, 2 weeks to go until Christmas. How does your approach, if any, change going into some holiday trade? I know for some traders, a lot of traders, it's just they don't do anything in the last couple of weeks. I have found sometimes that low volume environment, good opportunities, but like you said, you might have to use less shares. Do you change your approach going into the holidays?
You know, holidays in general, pre-holidays tend to be bullish, especially year end. And what we see and what we have seen so far is we get these crazy little names like the quantum computer stocks, you know, QSI, QUBT, QUM, whatever the QMCO. These names are just going nuts. And if you can get into those sectors and find the low risk setups in there and trade those, that's where you want to be and I thought for a little while, if Bitcoin was going to hold the 100,000 level, that some of the Bitcoin miners, BTBT, Hive, even Coinbase and Mr., were going to have some good runs. But instead, Bitcoin's not holding, so they're all coming in. So that list, that group is off the list for now, unless they heal in the next couple of weeks. Some of the drone names were starting to pop up again a little bit here today. So I think it's more about the themes in those crazy little names. Those are the ones that, year end, I think a lot of fund managers hold those and try to pump them up because they know that there's going to be no one on the opposite side of the trade so much trying to hold them back, so they can generate some good returns and get 20% of those profits that they create into the end of the year.
Great look there. And we saw a few of those run today. Rigetti, another one. In that quant space was a good runner. And I know some of our traders were able to capture that. Once again, we appreciate all that you do for us and the advice that you give everyone. So Brian Shannon, fantastic guest. I don't always get to talk to you on a Tuesday, so Sean will probably be back. But it's always a pleasure every single time we do. Big shout out to you. And best of luck in all of your trades. And if I don't get to see you again, happy holidays.
You too. Thanks, Neil. Thanks, everybody.
Always. Whoops. That was really loud.
Also, in Sean's honor, Sean always shows the.
What?
Okay, sorry about that. Sean always shows the Anchored VWAP book, so I want to show this as well. Shout out to Brian Shannon's Maximize Trading Games with Anchored VWAP. It's maybe a great holiday gift, so thank you very much to Brian Shannon for being here with us every Tuesday afternoon and with Neil and I today.
Well, and of course, it is 4:30. I want to remind everybody, look, just a bit of a review of what happened here in the aftermarket. GameStop earnings, it did close higher, so they've gone green now at 28. Only up a couple of points, but it went red to green. Certainly a good look and a much better look than Dave & Buster's, which is down significantly, down at $32. They got ye old rug pull. It was Stitch Fix that led the way, but has pulled back almost to that $5 level we mentioned. Stitch Fix was up over 30%. So it was a strong move there. But you know what time it is? It's time for a little roll call action where you got to put your name in the chat. And to be in the chat, you have to be a subscriber. So hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and then Adara is going to ring those names off. And what I always think you should do, type a message in there thanking Fabian, thanking Ramin, thanking Andre on our production team, thanking Obi for filling in for Sean, thanking Sean will be back tomorrow as Obi and Sean are going to be on the desk, thanking Brendan, thanking the Midday Madness, thanking the Bash Brothers, Sharif, and of course, Joe, Options Joe. And then obviously you got to thank Adara. And the best in the business, well, the best in the business on the desk for news, and the best in the business, Bears versus Bulls. Thank you so much for everything that you do every single day. We don't thank you enough. And give a shout out to Brian Shannon, our guest, for doing such a fantastic job. But it's roll call time.
Thank you very much. Shout out to Neil. Shout out to everybody. Just thank that. We're going to get with this roll call, though. And thank you, as always, to Bears versus Bulls. We have Adventures in Texas, Michael Spadafora, Andrew Senior TV, 0001 Angel, Blue Arrow, Paco OR Volky. We got Irvy. We have Jersey Sean. I guess not the Sean we're going to see tomorrow on the desk with Obi. Charlie Taff, Legend JRG, Tricom Master, Black Sheep Trades, NT5, Butter Biscuit Head. That's always a great one. We have Bears versus Bulls here as well. Blue Arrow, the Real Tech Geek, the Piper. We got Mike Breeze. We have Marlon B, Daddy Gator, Jai Singh, Michael Escorza, Matt Trombardum. We have Jason Murphy, Bilbo Bagholder. I got to end with that one because that is a fantastic name. Whether your journey is to the Shire or to your house. We hope to see you back again tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Hopefully not in a situation in Mount Doom for this markets, but only time will tell. Let us know what you're trading here in the chat for tomorrow. Drop that in the chat. Let us know what you're looking at as we bid you all adieu.
Thank you very much, Adara. Yep, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning, but I won't be seeing you. You're going to see Sean, and you're going to see Obi. I have the day off.
Enjoy.
Get some needed rest. My voice probably does need it, but thank you, everybody. Big shout out to Brian Shannon, and we get to do it right again tomorrow morning, 8:30. Bright and early, all the trades, all the reaction to GME earnings, and more, as the market never sleeps, and neither do we. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.
Bye.
Ooh, the desk.